Chapter 699. Seeing Su Ying's extremely nervous appearance, Jiang Xiu's face was calm and indifferent. He opened his mouth and said, "It's your father. I saved his daughter. He has no reason not to properly thank me." Su Ying said very nervously, "You should leave first. You're a man in my boudoir. If word gets out, it will damage my reputation." She really did need to be nervous. If word got out that she was impure or had a bad reputation, even if the Dark Crossing cult's leader was really lecherous, he would definitely not want her. How could a leader lack women? Even the Emperor's harem had 3,000 beauties, let alone him. The Dark Crossing cult's leader didn't care, but Su Ying did. This was her only chance to get close to the Dark Crossing cult. She definitely wouldn't give up. Jiang Xiu said, "You're already this young master's maidservant. Why should you care about this kind of gossip? Someone will know sooner or later." Su Ying was so angry that her chest violently heaved up and down. She didn't care about the difference between men and women and unceremoniously grabbed Jiang Xiu's arm. She pulled him up and pushed him inside. "Don't be a good-for-nothing. Hurry up and hide. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson." Pushing him inside was the boudoir. It was completely exposed. Aside from the bottom of the bed and the wardrobe, there was no place to hide. Moreover, there was no way to hide in those two places. Su Ying's eyes widened when she saw the screen. "Hide in the bucket behind." Jiang Xiu's face was cold as he stared at her. He said unhappily, "What kind of joke is this? Do you think your father has the qualifications to make me hide in the bucket?" "Xiaoying." The voice from outside came again. "I heard that a man broke into your courtyard." Su Ying was so anxious that sweat appeared on her forehead. She clasped her hands together and looked at Jiang Xiu pleadingly. "I beg you. Hide first. If my father finds out, it will be very troublesome." Jiang Xiu was originally still indifferent, but when he saw the tears in Su Ying's anxious eyes, his heart couldn't help but soften. Thinking of her original intention for doing this, his heart still softened. He turned around and went behind the screen. Su Ying let out a sigh of relief and turned to open the door. She said with a smile, "Father, why are you here?" "Xiaoying, Father heard from the servants that a man barged into your place." Su Ying said, "Oh, I've already sent him away. He's a lecher. Ever since your daughter entered the so-called top 10 beauties list, there have been many people like him." Lord Su strode into Su Ying's boudoir, as if he did not believe his daughter's words. Because the situation was inconsistent with the servant's report, he looked around the room. Su Ying did not dare to speak and quietly followed behind him, but her heart was extremely nervous. She hoped that this fake father would have some misgivings about her privacy and not ransack the cabinets. "Xiaoying, regarding the matter of going to the Vermilion Bird Tower, I know that I have wronged you. However, as citizens, we do not have the right to refuse the orders of the sect leader. I hope you can understand." Lord Su's tone was heavy. "Also, I hope that you can consider this family. If not, you know, with the sect leader's temper, our family will be destroyed." Su Ying nodded and said, "Your daughter understands." Lord Su was still unwilling to give up and looked around the room again. There was indeed no other aura. His cultivation was not low, so it was not worthwhile for him to catch someone. However, if he did not go over to take a look, how would he be able to sense the aura of a divine king that was deliberately concealing? He only gave up when he was sure that there was no one around. "Rest well for the next 2 days and adjust your complexion." Su Ying said, "Your daughter understands." In the end, Lord Su reluctantly left with his men. He even paused for a while after he left. "So you want to go to the Vermilion Bird Tower to become the sect leader's woman?" When Su Ying saw Jiang Xiu come out, her gaze was somewhat evasive. She had indeed lied to Jiang Xiu just now. She sighed and said, "You heard it just now. You did save me, but I'm very sorry. I'm going to the Vermilion Bird Tower. I want to become the sect leader's woman. When I gain favor and power in the future, I will agree to any request you have." Jiang Xiu looked at the beautiful woman in front of him. From his impression, Compared to Bai Chanqian's eagerness to get rid of him and even disregard his kindness, Jiang Xiu admired Su Ying more. Although she was called a demoness by Bai Chanqian, in reality, she knew how to be grateful. "You are my maid. How can you be someone else's woman?" Su Ying said in astonishment. "Didn't you hear me clearly? I want to go to the Vermilion Bird Tower. I want to be the sect leader's woman." Jiang Xiu said, "Listen carefully. You can refuse." Su Ying said, "I can't refuse. Absolutely not. Don't tell me you don't want to live anymore? You want to fight over a woman with the sect leader?" Jiang Xiu said, "Is he very powerful?" Su Ying said, "He is the most powerful man in the underworld. He is also an immortal king who is unimaginably powerful. You know about immortal kings, right? They are existences on another level." She vaguely remembered when her adoptive father used his sword. Sword chi crisscrossed the valley, and the sound of the sword whistled for thousands of miles. It was as if heaven and earth had been destroyed. That power was still fresh in her memory. "If you offend the sect leader, you will die. Don't do anything stupid." Jiang Xiu said, "The immortal martial continent is so big. If we leave, even if he has divine powers, where can he find us? Moreover, it is very inconvenient for people in the underworld to go in and out." Su Ying said, but I still have to think about my family. If I leave, my family will definitely suffer." "You, right, what is your name?" After all this time, she didn't even know Jiang Xiu's name. "Jiang Xiu." Su Ying said, "I will remember your name. I will definitely repay your kindness. After I go to the Vermilion Bird Tower, you can come find me if you need anything. I will definitely settle it for you. No matter what it is, if you want glory, splendor, wealth, and rank, I can give it to you." Jiang Xiu said, "I don't need these things. I just want you to be my maid." Su Ying shook her head. "That's impossible. You should leave." Jiang Xiu's eyes revealed a thoughtful expression. He had previously considered that even if he and Su Ying forced their way in, the sect leader of the underworld might not admit that he had captured the immortal doctor. At that time, all their efforts would have been in vain. However, seeing Su Ying's insistence, Jiang Xiu decided to wait and see what she had planned. He stood up and said, "I won't give up. I will come again. I can see that you don't actually want to go to the Vermilion Bird Tower. There's no need to make yourself suffer. Some things can be resolved in other ways. There's no need to be so extreme." Seeing Jiang Xiu leave, Su Ying was in a daze. She looked at his back with a strange expression. The Ghost Orchid Festival passed in the blink of an eye. Su Ying thought that Jiang Xiu would still pester her. However, she didn't expect that Jiang Xiu would never appear again after that night. Her family had also prepared a grand dress for her. Today, she would go to the Vermilion Bird Tower. Today, she would not be the only girl going to the Vermilion Bird Tower. There would be many other girls. Although she was the most famous, there would still be other powerful opponents. Back then, when the emperor chose his concubine, the scene was magnificent. Usually, immortal cultivation sects did not like this. However, the Nether Crossing sect was seen as evil. Therefore, it was reasonable that this matter was somewhat absurd. Su Ying had a golden crown on her head. It was full of golden pendants. When she walked, she swayed. The makeup on her face was very thick. She looked indescribably gorgeous. However, her eyes were still clear. The red dress on her body floated on the ground, making her look even more luxurious. There were even children scattering flower petals on the side. Today, countless young talents around the Su residence came to witness everything. The goddess in their hearts was going to be sent to the Vermilion Bird Tower to become another man's plaything. In the face of power, they were sad, angry, helpless, and dejected. Su Ying's face was expressionless. However, her hands were clenched tightly. She should be nervous. She should be nervous. She heard that those who entered the Vermilion Bird Tower were fine if they were favored, but those who weren't would die inside without being able to see anyone outside. However, she was confident. She would definitely be favored. When she walked out of the Vermilion Bird Tower, 2 people in white came to receive her. They had a deathly aura around them. It was eerie and scary. There was a cinnabar dot between their eyebrows. Just as Su Ying was about to enter the Vermilion Bird Tower, she saw a man standing on a roof in the distance. Although she couldn't see his face from afar, she felt that it was Zhang Xiu. A strange feeling arose in her heart. She wanted Zhang Xiu to save her and leave immediately. However, all of this was her own choice. She had no choice. She had been dormant for 60 years because of this. She lowered her head and walked in. Chapter 700. The night was like water, and the dazzling Vermilion Bird Tower was lit up with bright lights. The vermilion bird at the top of the tower spread its wings and emitted a bright red light. The entire Vermilion Bird Tower gave people an unapproachable feeling. Many top-notch beauties from the netherworld and the outside world were gathered in this tower, adding a bit of extravagance to the dazzling Vermilion Bird Tower. A noble place like this gathering of extravagance made people yearn for it, but also made people shrink back. Many men looked up at this Vermilion Bird Tower late at night and had beautiful dreams. Su Ying had already been in there for a full day. The originally unwilling suitors were already in despair, thinking that Su Ying must have been ruined. What a pity! However, Zhang Xiu could see clearly from afar that after Su Ying entered, she was assigned to a floor, which was the highest floor. She must have been evaluated inside. With Su Ying's beauty and talent, she should be the best among this batch of people who entered. At this moment, she was leaning against the wall and looking at the dazzling lights of the netherworld city. Her charming face was a bit anxious, twitching a bit, and a bit sad. In the end, it turned into a long sigh. She had finally entered, but she didn't know how long she had to wait. Sigh. Suddenly, a sigh was heard. Su Ying was surprised. Where did that sound come from? Why was there a sound here? She looked over and saw a tall figure standing on the roof, close by. It's you. Why is it you? Su Ying looked around nervously. After confirming that there was no one around, she lowered her voice and said nervously, Do you want to die? You actually dare to come to the Vermilion Bird Tower? Sigh. Zhang Xiu sighed again. Su Ying saw that he was putting on an act and didn't say anything. She couldn't help but frown. What are you doing? Do you know that you're in danger now? It'll be bad if someone sees you. Sigh. Su Ying was in a bad mood. What do you want? Zhang Xiu said, I'm sorry that a servant girl was snatched away by someone else. Tell me, should I settle the score with Sect Master Mingdu? Su Ying looked at his resolute face and his cold and serious expression. She could not help but roll her eyes. Please, who do you think you are? The sect master of the Nether Crossing sect is an immortal king. There are also protector immortal kings and the 12 earthly fiends. All of them are top-notch experts. Hurry up and leave before anyone discovers you. Not only did Zhang Xiu not leave, but he also sat down. Today, after you entered Sparrow Waiting Tower, I saw you secretly communicating with a man, as if you were planning something. Su Ying's charming face immediately changed, and a trace of panic flashed through her eyes as she said, I was only informing my servant, Zhang Xiu said. Is that so? But I don't think so. That person doesn't look like a servant. Su Ying's face was cold. Don't talk nonsense. If you keep talking nonsense, I'm going to call for help. Zhang Xiu said, Go ahead. When the time comes, you'll be interrogated by the Nether Crossing sect. Coincidentally, I've seen that person before. I think he's from the Immortal Tribulation sect. When Su Ying heard the 3 words Immortal Tribulation sect, her face turned completely pale. You. She tried hard to calm herself down, but her heart was in turmoil. That person was indeed from the Immortal Tribulation sect, which was her real sect. That person was here to cooperate with Su Ying. If he was exposed, Su Ying reckoned that it would be difficult to hide her own identity. Then, everything would be for naught. What do you want? Zhang Xiu said, As an evil sect's demoness, you colluded with an outside sect. What do you want? Su Ying avoided Jiang Xiu's gaze, but her hands touched her hair helplessly. She was clearly flustered, but she still had to pretend to be calm. It was quite interesting. Don't let your imagination run wild. I'm innocent. Jiang Xiu cursed in his heart. Little demon fox. She wanted to use this to change the topic. If it wasn't for Jiang Xiu knowing Su Ying's intentions, if it was someone else, they might have been confused. It doesn't look like it. You're pulling and pulling. Your relationship isn't simple. Su Ying blushed and said, No, don't talk nonsense. I entered the Vermilion Bird Tower with a clean record. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been assigned to the highest level. The inspection here is very strict. Jiang Xiu sighed. The inspection can only see the skin. Some people's hearts don't belong here. Their skin is just a walking corpse. Su Ying looked at Jiang Xiu suspiciously. This guy's words seemed to reveal something. Actually, if there's any problem, I can help you solve it. You don't have to do this. Jiang Xiu looked up. Under the night sky, his eyes were incomparably firm and confident. There was actually a strong aura of a king. I don't understand what you're trying to say. Jiang Xiu said, Today, I asked that person. He told me everything. Impossible. Su Ying blurted out. However, as soon as the words left her mouth, her eyes froze. She knew that things weren't good. In the end, she was still tricked by Jiang Xiu. If she said that it was impossible, wouldn't she be admitting that she had other motives? She could only close her small mouth tightly and make up her mind to never speak another word to this person again. Jiang Xiu said, He said that he was here to find out the whereabouts of a person. Su Ying was once again fooled. In front of Jiang Xiu, this old fox, she had been led by the nose the entire time. Impossible, it's impossible for him to say it. Jiang Xiu just looked at her indifferently. This reminded Jiang Xiu of when he was on Earth. He had a friend who was arrested because of a small matter. At first, when he was being interrogated, he would not open his mouth even if he was beaten to death. However, as soon as he sat down, he felt uneasy. The interrogator only looked at him and asked him if he was the one who stole the car in the east of the city. In the end, Jiang Xiu's friend exploded and defended himself on the spot. Then he said that he had done something like scratching the car, evading the fare, peeping at girls, and even breaking the window of a primary school football game. He even swore to the heavens that he was not the one who stole the car. Sometimes people were like this. Su Ying said, He is my friend. His wife is seriously injured. He wants me to help him find out if the immortal doctor, Ji Wuhua, is in the underworld. It's that simple. Su Ying's psychological quality was not bad. She hid most of it and revealed a small part of it. However, Jiang Xiu frowned slightly. So it's Ji Wuhua. Because the three great immortal doctors had supreme skills, countless people begged them. They used money, secret techniques, or magic treasures as the price. These were fine, just a little annoying. However, there were also some people who thought they were powerless and plotted to achieve their goals. Of course, they would try their best to hide. As for the three peak stage immortal doctors of the immortal martial continent, Ji Wuhua was an anomaly. Not only was her medical skills top-notch, her cultivation base was also top-notch at the immortal king realm. Jiang Xiu had never seen her before, but his friends had seen her before. They had even fought against her before and had evaluated her strength. If it wasn't for the fact that her medical skills were too top-notch, her strength alone would have already caused her name to resound throughout the immortal martial continent. Jiang Xiu asked, Is Ji Wuhua in the underworld crossing cult? Su Ying said, It shouldn't be wrong. My friend just wants the immortal doctor to save someone. Jiang Xiu fell into silence. Since Su Ying mentioned the immortal doctor, then there was no need to lie about who the immortal doctor was. If it was Ji Wuhua, then things might be different. It was very difficult to trap an immortal king. At least 4 immortal kings were needed. According to what Jiang Xiu knew, the underworld crossing cult was only a mid-level sect. There wouldn't be more than 4 immortal kings in the sect. Moreover, Ji Wuhua had heaven-defying talent and was good at transformation. It could be said that she was a disguise, but she was a real one. Even ghosts and gods couldn't see through her. Until now, no one in the immortal martial continent knew what Ji Wuhua looked like. How could a person who understood medicine and was good at transformation be caught by the underworld crossing cult's leader? If it was really not voluntary, then this underworld crossing cult's leader was not simple. However, on second thought, Jiang Xiu thought of another matter. Jiang Xiu said, "Even if your friend finds Ji Wuhua, what if she is unwilling to treat him? You should know that it is very difficult to ask the three great immortal doctors to help. It is not something that can be persuaded by ordinary conditions." Su Ying's clear eyes revealed a sad expression. This was the thing she was most worried about. Even if she found Ji Wuhua, how could she persuade her to save her foster father? Even if she had to give up all her family's property, even if she had to hand over everything she had learned. Suddenly, footsteps came from the Sparrow Tower. Su Ying said nervously, "Someone is coming." Was it the underworld crossing cult's leader? Chapter 701. Su Ying's heart became extremely nervous. She turned her head and looked over. A tall man wearing pitch-black armor walked in with steady steps. His face was shrouded by the shadows of the roof beams. He did not look light, which made him look exceptionally valiant and frightening. "Ji General." Su Ying tried her best to control her voice so that he wouldn't hear anything strange. "Young Lady Su." The lights in the Sparrow Tower were very dim. He walked over slowly. He was wearing official boots, and every step he took was very imposing. When he got closer, they could see that he was a middle-aged man wearing a helmet with a resolute face. He wasn't the sect master of Ming-Du. Someone who wasn't the sect master of Ming-Du but could enter the highest tower of the Sparrow Tower must be a guard of the Sparrow Tower. It was said that the god general of the Sparrow Tower was one of the 12 Earth Fiends, General Ming Luo. "General, it's so late. Do you have something to do here?" Ming-Du's gaze was deep. A bronze accessory hung on his waist. The muscles on his face tightened. He looked at Su Ying's charming face and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry, young Lady Su." Su Ying said, "What do you mean?" Ming Luo said, "Some people don't like the fact that your Su family's power is too strong. Your father's authority is already extremely heavy. Miss Su is a beauty of the nation. In the future, she will definitely gain the cult leader's favor." Su Ying's face gradually turned pale. You want to kill me?" Ming Luo shook his head. "This is the Sparrow Tower. No one dares to kill here. Moreover, I'm killing you, young Lady Su. As a guard of the Sparrow Tower, why would I find trouble for myself? Men." As soon as he finished speaking, 2 clouds of black smoke floated from behind him. They landed on the ground and turned into 2 black armored soldiers. "As long as you ruin young Lady Su's chastity, the sect master will not accept you. Instead, he will blame the Su family's daughter for not knowing how to behave." Su Ying's face lost all color in an instant. "General Ming Luo, the Su family doesn't have any ambition. It was an accident that I was recruited into the Sparrow Tower. Please take pity on Su Ying and spare her. I will repay your kindness in the future." Ming Luo said, "People change. Ambition also grows slowly. I've seen too many examples like you." Ming Luo walked between life and death all day and was known for his ruthlessness. "Miss Su, are you going to resist or surrender?" When Su Ying saw the 2 black smoke men approaching, she couldn't help but retreat backwards. Her cultivation wasn't weak, but compared to the 2 Ming Sha beside Ming Luo, she was still far behind. Her clear eyes were filled with fear and anger. "Ming Luo, aren't you afraid that the cult leader will punish you if something happens?" "Ha ha ha," he laughed heartily. "Young Lady Su, I thought you were a smart person, but it turns out that you're just a mediocre person. Do you think that the cult master would punish me, one of the 12 earthly fiends, for a mere woman?" Indeed, in this chaotic immortal martial continent, there wasn't a single person in power who would waste the strength of their sect for the sake of a beauty. This was especially so for the 12 earthly fiends that could support half the sky of the underworld continent. Take him down. Su Ying was anxious and angry. She had never thought that such an accident would happen. She groaned inwardly. If she lost her chastity, she wouldn't be able to see the cult leader. How could she inquire about the whereabouts of the immortal doctor Ji Wuhua? Her 60 years of work would be in vain. Forget it. Her first thought was to escape. Not to mention her plan, being defiled was not something that a woman could endure. Thus, she thought of Zhang Xiu, who was outside the window. It would be better if there was someone to provide support. However, when she turned around and was about to jump out of the window, she saw a scene that almost made her heart collapse. She saw Zhang Xiu desperately running for his life. Seeing how he was running away without any sense of loyalty, she felt very indignant. However, when she thought about it carefully, he had saved her once, but she didn't repay him. Now that she was in trouble, he didn't save her. It was normal for him not to save her. Moreover, the opponent was so strong. She felt an indescribable grievance in her heart. No matter what, she was also one of the top 10 beauties. There were so many people outside crying and shouting that they would die for her. The chance to be the hero saving the beauty was right in front of you, but you didn't cherish it. Who could you blame? You deserved to fall on all fours. Su Ying bit her red lips and transformed into a beam of light that shot out from the Vermilion Bird Tower that was thousands of meters high. Her speed was very fast, but Ming Sha, who was behind her, was even faster. He felt a piercing pain on his back, and his entire body was sent flying by the black smoke. She took out a talisman and pasted it on her body. The golden light of the talisman flashed, and her body suddenly traversed a few thousand meters in a flash. Her speed didn't decrease as she rushed forward. That was the sea, the vast and boundless archipelago sea region. Under the night sky, the sea region was pitch black. The waves kept crashing against the reefs. The sea region near the Vermilion Bird Tower was lit up by lights, and it was slightly brighter. With a splash, Su Ying fell into the water. There was a faint layer of smoke on the surface of the sea. Once night fell, the smoke would spread. It couldn't be seen clearly from afar, but when one got closer, one would realize that the smoke was actually very thick. Even the ships were covered. The moment Su Ying fell into the water, a ship swayed over. It was Zhang Xiu. Quickly come up. When Su Ying emerged from the water, she was very shocked. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Why would Zhang Xiu appear here? Since she didn't believe that Zhang Xiu would come to save her, it was even more difficult to imagine how he would appear here so precisely to save her. But at this moment, she couldn't care less. Reaching out, Zhang Xiu pulled her up onto the ship. The light at the bow of the ship was very dim, but it was enough to break through the smoke. Zhang Xiu moved the oars and disappeared into the smoke ahead. And when the two Ming Sha chased here, their gazes swept across the sea. The ship had already swayed into the reefs, and they couldn't see any trace of it. His reaction was very fast and accurate. Su Ying's entire body was drenched. Her clothes were tightly wrapped around her exquisite body. Her face was wet from the seawater, but her eyes shone brightly under the light. Didn't you escape? Her voice was a little soft. She was a little guilty, but also a little surprised. Escape. Zhang Xiu's fleeing figure was still in Su Ying's mind. It turned out that he wasn't trying to escape, but had prepared a ship to save her. But she didn't understand how Zhang Xiu could appear here so accurately. How did you appear here? Zhang Xiu said, It's very simple. In the situation at that time, of course you wouldn't give up without a fight. You couldn't beat them, so you could only escape. There was only one way to escape, which was to jump out of a nearby window. If you were on land, you wouldn't be able to escape the two Ming Sha's pursuit. Ming Sha is afraid of water, and now that it's night, the sea is very foggy. Escaping from the sea is your only chance. As for finding your position so accurately, that's even simpler. Who would run in a zigzag route? Of course it's a straight line. The shortest distance is to enter the sea. Su Ying looked at Zhang Xiu in front of her, and her gaze gradually changed. This person looked a little scoundrel, but he was actually so intelligent. What was even more rare was that he really was a hero saving a beauty. According to the script, the beauty had to repay him with her body. An indescribable shyness welled up in her heart. She used to look at Jiang Xiu's face without fear, but now she didn't have the courage to raise her head to look at him. Su Ying used a mosquito-like voice to say, You, why did you take the risk to save me? Jiang Xiu said, Could it be that I was supposed to watch them take you away? Su Ying suddenly frowned, revealing a pained expression. When she was about to escape, she suffered a blow from the other party. That blow wasn't light at all. Jiang Xiu's voice sounded in her ears, What do you plan to do? Su Ying said, I have to return to Vermilion Bird Tower. You still want to go back? Su Ying said, Leaving without permission after entering the Vermilion Bird Tower is a serious crime that will result in the extermination of the entire clan. Even though my father's official position isn't low and he has some authority, he can't be compared to Ming Luo at all. Moreover, I have a reason to go back. Su Ying's brows furrowed tighter and tighter, and her bright eyes gradually became blurry. Many double images of Jiang Xiu appeared, and in the end, she fell head first into Jiang Xiu's embrace. Su Ying. Her back was emitting a faint black smoke. She was injured, and it looked like her injury wasn't light. Jiang Xiu forcefully tore open her back, and there was an obvious black palm print in the middle of her silky smooth back. The black smoke was coming from the black palm print. Mingsha was restrained by water. Jiang Xiu dug a hole and drew water into the hole. He then removed Su Ying's clothes and placed her in the hole. He then boiled the water and used the boiling water to expel the mana that had entered Mingsha's body. Chapter 702. Mingsha's power was very close to the Great Tao of Destruction. In a sense, it was one of them, but it also had some power that the Great Tao of Destruction did not. As long as it touched the skin, the dermic powers would rush to the heart. If that palm was not heavy, Su Ying's heart would have exploded, and then her entire body would be destroyed by the dermic powers. Jiang Xiu's cultivation of the heavenly water Tao was his weakness, whether it was immortal cultivation or now. Fortunately, these two Ming Sha's cultivation was limited. Otherwise, he would have lost in front of the immortal king. Su Ying sat in the puddle. The boiling water below kept surging up, making popping sounds as if it was boiling a living person. The surface of the water was gradually dyed black by the dermic powers that were forced out of the body. Su Ying's beautiful face was also white and black, but the black color gradually faded. Her complexion became better and better, and the color of the water became darker. In the end, Su Ying's face no longer appeared black, and her face gradually became rosy. In a daze, she felt her whole body unbearably hot. She opened her eyes and saw Jiang Xiu beside the fire. Then, she felt that something was wrong. Looking down, her expression changed drastically. Her body was faintly discernible in the water. She cried out involuntarily and hurriedly covered her chest. Jiang Xiu said, So noisy. It's not like I haven't seen it before. People always come and leave naked. Su Ying's pretty face was crimson red, and she coolly turned her face away. However, the coolness only lasted for a moment, and her face quickly became unnatural. How could she be at ease with a strange man beside her without any clothes on? Don't turn your face away. Jiang Xiu said, Am I not being shameless? Sit a little further away. Jiang Xiu felt helpless and moved his but a few seats to the side. Sit a little further away. Su Ying's voice carried a sob. Although she knew that Jiang Xiu was saving her, she still felt wronged and even more embarrassed. Jiang Xiu stood up and walked towards the distant sea. However, as soon as he left, the bonfire suddenly went out. The bonfire seemed to be connected to a puddle. As the boiling water disappeared, the fire burned, and the boiling water slowly calmed down. The temperature of the water dropped very quickly. Only then did Su Ying retract her fierce gaze shyly and resentfully. Now that her vigilance was lifted, a strong sense of exhaustion came over her. She almost fainted again and let herself lean against the sand pit. The water was very hot, making it difficult for her to breathe. She slowly fell asleep again. In her daze, Su Ying seemed to see Jiang Xiu. You. She felt that something was wrong with her. She seemed to be in a strange place, as if she was in an illusory time. Jiang Xiu said, "You don't have to look. This is the mental world of meditation, which is the place you want to come out of." Su Ying said, "Then how did you get in?" Jiang Xiu said, "Because I planted a seed of Tao in your heart." Seed of Tao? What is that? Su Ying was very confused. What was happening in front of her eyes was completely unheard of. Jiang Xiu said, "Seed of Tao, this is a secret of the sect. It is not appropriate to tell you. Just treat it as if you are in a dream. Focus on your mind. Let me heal you first." Su Ying looked left and right at herself. She crossed her arms in front of her chest. "Are you lying to me? How can you heal me in a dream?" Jiang Xiu said, "Have you ever heard of someone being scared to death?" Su Ying nodded. These people who were scared to death were not attacked. However, they believed that they were attacked, and the damage done to them was real. This is the so-called psychological crime. The psychological affects the physical. Pooh. Su Ying suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood. When it fell into the water, green smoke rose from the water. She opened her eyes wide and woke up. Her eyes were full of shock. She looked around but did not see Jiang Xiu's shadow. There was a figure standing by the distant shore. It should be him. His hands were behind his back. In the dark night, he looked very mysterious. He really forced out Ming Sha's Li? She had never heard of such a method of saving someone. She suddenly thought of something. "Hey! Can I ask you for a favor?" Jiang Xiu slowly turned around. Su Ying had already come out of the puddle. She was dressed neatly. Her small face was flushed red and her clear eyes carried a bit of shyness. She did not know that this added a fatal charm to her charm. "What is it?" Su Ying said, "Can you save someone who has gone crazy?" Jiang Xiu knew that Su Ying was obviously talking about Shui Wuyao. If he could save him, why would he go through so much trouble to find an immortal doctor? It was not easy for him to plant a seed of Tao in him. He could only do it when he was weak and confused. Although Shui Wuyao had gone crazy, his sword cultivation had increased greatly. His xenophobia was stronger than usual. How could he plant a seed of Tao? Moreover, even if he planted a seed of Tao, he did not know how to treat a crazy person. This kind of thing needed to be done professionally. "There's no other way." The smile on Su Ying's face immediately disappeared. The sea breeze blew her hair into a mess. She reached out and brushed it aside. "Oh, thank you for today. But I have to go." Jiang Xiu said, "Are you going back to the Sparrow Tower?" "Yes." Su Ying nodded. "I have to go back. If I don't go back, it will be very troublesome. I still have things to do." She looked at Jiang Xiu. Her gaze became hesitant. She was no longer as resolute as before. She even hoped that Jiang Xiu could persuade her to stay. If Jiang Xiu really persuaded her to stay, she did not know if she would have the courage to go to that disgusting place again. Jiang Xiu said, "Can you guarantee that Ming Luo will not kill you if you go back?" Su Ying said, "I can't. I have to get someone to send a message home first. Then, I have to get my father to mediate. Then, I will show myself. This matter can only be blown out of proportion. If you blow it out of proportion, I won't have a chance." Jiang Xiu nodded slightly. Su Ying was indeed a very intelligent girl. She knew what to do very quickly. What was even rarer was her persistence in pursuing her goals. This was a very rare quality. Whether a person was successful or not, this was a very important factor. Back then, Jiang Xiu did not understand on Earth. So, he was muddle-headed and wandered around. He treated his marriage with Cheng Lingsu as his life-saving straw. Perhaps Jiang Xiu did love Cheng Lingsu back then. However, if Cheng Lingsu was just an ordinary girl and did not come from a rich family, Jiang Xiu was not sure if he would not hold on to it. Perhaps he would. But now that he thought about it, he did treat this marriage as his life-saving straw. If you don't want to go, I can help you. Su Ying smiled, revealing her spotlessly white teeth. Her mood became a bit more relaxed. However, she still said, "You won't be able to help me. The power that I'm facing is too powerful. Although you seem to possess the strength of an upper heavenly deity, which could be considered to be pretty good, when compared to them, the disparity is simply too great." Jiang Xiu said, "Is that so?" Su Ying said, "Your personality is a little arrogant. I can see that you have been very outstanding all this time. However, you have not seen what a true expert looks like. If you did, you would not be like this now." Jiang Xiu said, "Then what should I be like?" "Jiang Xiu, I have to go. I really have to go." At this moment, there was a faint light at the horizon of the sea. She knew that the sunrise was coming soon. It was not early anymore. She walked off into the distance. After walking for several hundred meters, she saw that Jiang Xiu didn't say anything, nor did he urge her to stay. She was a bit reluctant to part with him. She looked back one last time before finally disappearing into the still dark sky. After a while, she shouted at Jiang Xiu, "Ignorance is arrogance." Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed with a cold light. Not long after, under the horizon of the sea, the sun rose into the sky. The light chased away the darkness, and the sky suddenly brightened. Jiang Xiu walked onto the street. The city also began to bustle. Not long after, people came and went. It was a bustling scene. A person walked past him. The reason why Jiang Xiu felt strange was because the person's aura was very strong. The people on the street were all ordinary people. There were one or two cultivators, and they were also very weak. However, the strength of this person's aura was at the great heavenly immortal realm or even stronger. It was possible that he was an immortal king. Perhaps it was because it was early in the morning, but he did not deliberately hide it. He was still dozing off, as if he had not yet woken up. He entered a restaurant and said, "Waiter, give me breakfast." Jiang Xiu also felt hungry. He also went in and sat down. He noticed that the person ate very slowly and took very small bites. Moreover, he stopped after eating a little. He put down his chopsticks, took out some money, and left. "You're an adult, yet you're still eating so little?" Jiang Xiu felt that he seemed to have grasped something. Chapter 703. Jiang Xiu followed them out of the restaurant. There were many people on the street, but for Jiang Xiu, these people were no different from non-existent. However, he was stunned. The person he wanted to follow had disappeared. Not only had the person disappeared, but even the aura had disappeared. Startled, he quickly walked over and put his hand on the shoulder of a woman. Judging from Jiang Xiu's perception of power and the speed of the person's footsteps, the woman should be standing in the same place as the person just now. "What are you doing?" Jiang Xiu saw that the person he had caught was actually a woman. Furthermore, she was an ordinary woman in her 40s. The most terrifying thing was that this woman had a mole on her chin. Furthermore, there was a strand of hair on the mole. "You've got the wrong person." Jiang Xiu was really disgusted by her ugliness. "It's okay." The woman smiled at him, then turned and continued to walk. Jiang Xiu immediately frowned. His perception of power and space was very sensitive. Although it was very difficult to guess and judge based on nothing, he had never failed. This had almost become an instinct of his. This was also the key to his ability to judge how many moves he could make when he lost all his cultivation on Earth. There was no reason to be wrong. His marble-like face changed. He cursed in his heart, "Not good, I've been deceived." His brows immediately wrinkled. However, it was good to be deceived, too good to be deceived. Originally, Jiang Xiu just felt that this person was strange. Her cultivation was so high, but she lived the life of an ordinary person and ate like a woman. She was originally a woman. Even if she changed her appearance, her appetite and habits would not change, especially when she was groggy early in the morning. And that ugly and disgusting madam should be her disguise. Putting all these together, it could be deduced that the person just now was very likely to be Ji Wuhua. This really surprised Zhang Xiu. He actually bumped into the person Su Ying couldn't find in 60 years on the street. However, he still got rid of her in the end. Perhaps in the entire immortal martial continent, only Ji Wuhua would be able to slip away under Zhang Luoxia's nose. It was almost impossible for Zhang Xiu to find Ji Wuhua in the city with his ability to restrain his aura and change his appearance. At that moment, Zhang Xiu missed a great opportunity. However, from the way Ji Wuhua walked on the street just now, she must have been here for a long time. She should be very familiar with this place. She is actually free. This was far beyond Zhang Xiu's expectations. He thought that Ji Wuhua had been controlled by the Nether Crossing Church and had lost her freedom, but it turned out that she had chosen to stay. Why did she stay? Was he treating a patient? However, he had lived here for many years, so it wasn't difficult to catch him. As the saying goes, a monk can run away, but the temple can't. Unless she was discovered by Zhang Xiu and felt that she had been seen through, she would give up her current identity and change her appearance. For her, after so many years, she should have been used to it. Zhang Xiu returned to the restaurant and asked the waiter about the situation. Needless to say, the person just now was called Lu Dazhuang. He was a rich man who lived in the Lu mansion at the end of the street and would come to his restaurant for breakfast every day. He was a regular customer. When Zhang Xiu asked the waiter what Lu Dazhuang did for a living, the waiter couldn't say. He just said that Lu Dazhuang seemed to be very rich and had an endless amount of money to spend even if he didn't work. Lu Dazhuang. No one knew what Ji Wuhua looked like. In the beginning, no one was sure whether she was a man or a woman. She seemed to be able to attack and defend. Later, someone wasted an opportunity to ask the Lingxi Pavilion to confirm that she was a woman. It's really not easy to find this person. Zhang Xiu planned to go to Ji Wuhua's residence. If she came back, he would try to see if he could ask her to help. If she could, Su Ying would be saved from the trouble of going to the Vermilion Bird Tower. If she couldn't, he would think about it later. When he arrived at Lu Dazhuang's residence, he was accompanied by a few servants and maids. Zhang Xiu claimed to be Lu Dazhuang's friend. Since Ji Wuhua had stayed here for so long, she should have some contact with him. It was normal for a friend to come. When the servants of the Lu mansion heard that Zhang Xiu was a guest of the master, they politely welcomed him in and entertained him with good wine and dishes. It seemed that Lu Dazhuang was very hospitable. They waited from morning to afternoon. Zhang Xiu asked the servants. Lu Dazhuang wasn't sure when he would come back, but he never spent the night outside. About evening, Zhang Xiu smiled. Finally, he didn't wait for a day in vain. A familiar aura appeared at the door. This time, it was impossible for him to slip away under Zhang Xiu's nose again. Friend? What friend? Lu Dazhuang didn't care too much. He said he was a friend of the master. He claimed to be Zhang Xiu and was waiting for you in the pavilion by the waterside. Lu Dazhuang handed his coat to the servant and walked home. He looked at Zhang Xiu along the waterside pavilion, only to find an outstanding man with his hands behind his back. A cultivator. He didn't look serious at all. Who are you? I, Lu Dazhuang, don't seem to have a friend like you. Lu Dazhuang came all the way to Zhang Xiu's back, but he didn't turn around for a long time. It seemed that he was the master of this place. This momentum was accumulated by the Chongnian who was in a superior position. The timing was just right. Zhang Xiu slowly turned around. It's you. Lu Dazhuang was shocked. Immortal Dr. Ji's appearance is much more pleasing to the eye than that madam with a mole. Zhang Xiu's face was still cold and aloof. It's just that your appetite is a little small. Lu Dazhuang smiled and said, Why can't I understand what you're saying? Zhang Xiu said, Then how did you recognize me? Just now, he was really shocked. It was a subconscious reaction. He didn't expect that his identity would be seen through in a hurry on the street. He didn't take it seriously at all. He thought that this person wasn't simple. Oh, we met in the restaurant. Zhang Xiu understood that a famous doctor like Ji Wuhua had long been disgusted with the various sex requests and threats. Usually, he wouldn't admit his identity. If Zhang Xiu wanted to use force, he could, but he would also offend Ji Wuhua and refuse to treat Xue Wuyao. Appearance can be changed, but habits can't be changed. After all, women have small appetites and are full after eating a few mouthfuls. Also, you used an illusion to avoid being tracked down. Lu Dazhuang was a gentleman. He gestured for Zhang Xiu to take a seat. You might have misunderstood. I'm not the immortal Dr. Ji you're talking about. Zhang Xiu didn't need him to admit it. He said, one of my friends went crazy because he felt that he had broken his promise. He was driven crazy by despair and annoyance. He wants an immortal doctor to treat him. Lu Dazhuang said, I'm really sorry. I'm really not a man. You're a guest from afar. If you don't mind, sit down and have a cup of tea and dinner before you leave. Zhang Xiu knew that Ji Wuhua wouldn't agree so easily. Moreover, if Suing wasn't mistaken, when she came, Ji Wuhua was already here. She had been here for more than 60 years. If she wanted to do something but hadn't completed it, she naturally wouldn't leave easily. Zhang Xiu looked at the person in front of him. As long as the immortal doctor is willing, you can name any conditions. Lu Dazhuang still smiled and said, You've mistaken me for someone else. Zhang Xiu frowned slightly. He, Zhang Luoxia, hadn't asked for help like this for a long time. He sighed. He was very overbearing and vicious, but he wouldn't use force to threaten a doctor. Moreover, doing so might not be useful. Lu Dazhuang said, Where are you from? Zhang Xiu said, Since you don't intend to help, why do you ask me where I'm from? Xiu Shen's anger couldn't be contained. Since immortal Dr. Ji has been loitering here for so many years, there should be unfinished business. Although I might not be able to help, it's still very easy to mess things up. He didn't need to be powerless to act shamelessly. You, Zhang Xiu said, your greatest ability is to treat patients, and you haven't failed to treat a patient for more than 60 years. Unless you did it deliberately, I can't think of any other reason. Lu Dazhuang's face gradually turned cold. Don't go too far. This was tantamount to admitting that his real identity was Ji Wuhua. In fact, he had been seen through by Zhang Xiu. It didn't matter whether he admitted it or not. Chapter 704. Although Lu Dazhuang didn't want to cause trouble, she wasn't afraid if trouble came knocking on her door. Her immortal king cultivation allowed her to take the initiative most of the time. At the very least, ordinary sects wouldn't dare to be rough with her. This was much better than the other two immortal doctors. If the person in front of her dared to be presumptuous, she didn't mind teaching him a lesson. Zhang Xiu said, Since you refuse a toast and insist on being forced to drink a forfeit, I can only fulfill your wish. Lu Dazhuang had seen too many people like this. Zhang Xiu's methods were also common, but this really touched her bottom line. She had been dormant here for so many years, and she would never allow anyone to destroy it. Lu Dazhuang was enraged. I want to help you because I owe you a favor, but it's reasonable not to help you. Why should I help you when you're not related to me? I'll give you 2 bowls of wine to drink, and you really think you're a distinguished guest. You're not welcome here, please leave, I won't see you out. Zhang Xiu didn't expect this immortal doctor's temper to be so bad. However, it seemed that all doctors had bad tempers, but he was speechless. She had fallen out with him and still dared to ask him to leave like this. Wasn't she afraid that his identity would be made public? At that time, the people who came to her for medical treatment would be enough to flatten the door of this residence. However, Zhang Xiu immediately understood that Ji Wuhua would probably abandon this place after he left. Zhang Xiu stood up. In that case, we'll meet again. Looking at Zhang Xiu's back as he left, Lu Dazhuang muttered to herself. Zhang Xiu gave her a very strange feeling. This person's power was evident from the fact that no one could find her for so many years, but Jiang Xiu could find her just by meeting him on the street. It was a pity that she didn't ask about his background, otherwise, it would be easier to deal with him. Jiang Xiu walked out of Ji Wuhua's house and disappeared. When he reappeared, night had already fallen. Every house was lit up, and it was peaceful and warm. He saw that Lu Dazhuang had dismissed the servants and was very generous with his money. After that, he also walked out of the manor. His eyes flashed, and the powerful divine sense of an immortal king scanned the surroundings. The aura of the few immortal cultivators didn't seem to be the same as the one he saw today. Hence, he walked forward. His body was covered in smoke, and when he came out again, it was a handsome young man dressed in brocade robes. If Jiang Xiu deliberately hid his aura now, there wouldn't be many people who could find him. I'm a woman's after all. The handsome young man walked in the city for a long time and entered an official residence. The manservant at the door bowed to him. Young master, you're back. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. Ji Wuhua dismissed the servants under Lu Dazhuang's identity and also ordered the housekeeper to sell the residence, creating the illusion that she had left Mingdu. Indeed, anyone who saw others selling their houses and dismissing their servants would think that they had left. However, Ji Wuhua didn't expect that Su Ying had been looking for her for more than 60 years. Jiang Xiu knew that she had stayed in Mingdu for at least 60 years and would never leave before she accomplished her task. In the morning of the next day, Ji Wuhua, who had disguised herself as a handsome young man, went out. Jiang Xiu followed behind him. He walked leisurely as if he was strolling in his own garden. However, his figure was illusory and formless. It was as if many figures were passing through time and space. It was very mysterious. Ji Wuhua's tracking skill completely hid his aura, which had a great connection with the great Tao of space. In the past, Jiang Xiu could detect him when he used the immortal king realm. Now that Jiang Xiu had mastered the law of space, it was impossible for Ji Wuhua to detect him. He followed Ji Wuhua all the way to the gate of the palace. He saw that Ji Wuhua, who was originally a handsome young man, had transformed into an old man with white hair and a white beard. He was also wearing an official's robe. Guardian. Huh? Jiang Xiu was slightly moved. Ji Wuhua even pretended to be a guardian of the Mingdu cult. She was up to something big. If there was no accident, it should be related to the sect master of the Mingdu cult. Jiang Xiu couldn't go in anymore. Although the Mingdu cult was nothing in Jiang Xiu's eyes, there must be a special array in the palace of the Vatican. Once he cast a spell, it would be detected. After stopping here, Jiang Xiu turned back. He went to the mansion of the young man in the brocade robe. After asking someone, he found out that the young man was called Yi Chengfeng. Following the pattern, Jiang Xiu went to the Yi mansion and claimed to be Yi Chengfeng's friend. However, the manservant here said that the young master didn't come back often and might not be able to wait for him. Lu Dazhuang's identity couldn't be used anymore. Jiang Xiu knew that Ji Wuhua would definitely come back, so he said that he had made an appointment with Brother Yi to wait for him at home. The manservant saw him and invited him in. Just like in Lu Dazhuang's mansion, the manservants entertained Jiang Xiu with good wine and meat. Jiang Xiu thought that if he didn't have money to eat in the future, he could rely on swindling to make a living. He could also eat and drink well. About the same time as yesterday, Yi Chengfeng came back in the afternoon. Jiang Xiu felt his aura at the door and showed a faint smile. "What, friend?" Yi Chengfeng frowned and walked in suspiciously. A familiar scene appeared in front of her eyes. Jiang Xiu was standing in the pavilion with his hands behind his back. Hearing his calm footsteps, it was as if everything was under his control. Jiang Xiu slowly turned around with an indifferent and cold expression. His gaze had been lingering on the fish in the pond from the beginning to the end. When he turned around, he retracted his gaze and looked at Yi Chengfeng. "It's you again." Yi Chengfeng was furious. Jiang Xiu said, "Yes, it's me again. I came to find the immortal doctor for the same matter. I want to ask the immortal doctor to save a crazy friend. As long as the immortal doctor is willing to help, I won't disturb you again. You. No one liked being threatened. As one of the 3 most famous immortal doctors in the immortal martial continent, Yi Changfeng had her own temper. However, Zhang Xiu's methods made her feel a chill in her heart. She felt like she was being targeted by a lone wolf. Even if she changed her identity and appearance, she still couldn't avoid this guy. How did you find me? Zhang Xiu said, when I saw you coming out of the Lu mansion, I changed into Yi Chengfeng's appearance and activated Yi Chengfeng's identity. He didn't try to hide anything and directly revealed his own details without pretending to be mysterious. Yi Chengfeng lightly smiled and cursed in her heart. Fool, now that I know how you deal with me, I have a way to deal with it. I'll say it again. I'm not an immortal doctor and I don't have a friend like you. Please leave. Zhang Xiu said, Immortal Dr. Ji, don't be anxious. I haven't finished speaking yet. Yi Chengfeng turned her face to the side as if she was very impatient. She was also very disdainful of Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu's indifferent voice sounded in her ears. From a woman's point of view, Zhang Xiu's voice was very pleasant to listen to. He was also very good-looking and had a transcendent aura. However, he just had to be so annoying. Zhang Xiu said, however, I didn't expect that Yi Chengfeng would turn into an old man. The disciples of the Nether Crossing cult would even call you Elder. Buzz. Yi Chengfeng suddenly turned her head. Her face could no longer remain calm as she angrily said, You followed me? Careless, too careless. As an immortal king, she naturally didn't take Zhang Xiu seriously. She even thought that Lu Dazhuang would be able to get rid of her after dismissing his servants and selling his home. She didn't expect this to happen. She could give up any other identity, but she definitely couldn't give up the identity of an elder. However, this fatal identity was discovered by Zhang Xiu. She lowered her voice and angrily said, What exactly do you want? I've already stated my origins. Yi Chengfeng fiercely cursed. This beautiful young man actually revealed a rare feminine side. This was truly infuriating. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have revealed her true appearance. Her eyes turned. She was currently being threatened by Zhang Xiu and said, I can agree to your conditions. However, I have a condition. You have to wait for me for a while. I still have very important things to do. Zhang Xiu slightly frowned and said, How long do you need? I can't wait too long. The other party had prepared for more than 60 years and still hadn't succeeded. He didn't have the patience to wait another 60 years. He also didn't want Xue Wuyao to suffer the pain of insanity. Yi Chengfeng said, I can't guarantee this. Zhang Xiu said, Then why don't Immortal Dr. Ji treat my friend first? However, she resolutely shook her head and said, I can't leave this place. If you can wait, then wait. If you can't, then find someone else. If you want to fight to the death, then forgive me for not being able to do as you wish. Chapter 705. Many commoners couldn't buy a house even after working their entire lives, but to some people, they could buy a house with just a few minutes of work. Therefore, Zhang Xiu said, Can you tell me about Immortal Dr. Ji's difficulties? Maybe I can help a little. Yi Chengfeng sized up Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu surprised her, but it was only a surprise. She thought she was careless and underestimated Zhang Xiu. However, immortals look down on gods, so she didn't take Zhang Xiu seriously. She also didn't think that Zhang Xiu could help with what she was doing now. He shook his head. Zhang Xiu also understood that many things involved privacy and couldn't be revealed. It would be troublesome. The other party had already agreed to help. They just needed to wait, but Zhang Xiu didn't want to wait. At this moment, a commotion came from outside. Yi Chengfeng's Yi clan was also a large clan in Mingdu, so they were the first to hear the news. Su clan's Miss Su Ying had escaped from Vermilion Bird Tower because Ming Luo wanted to kill the so-called potential enemy in the cradle. Su clan wanted to protect themselves, so the matter was blown out of proportion. Hearing the commotion outside, Yi Chengfeng called for a servant and found out. Ming Luo is really ruthless. He wants to ruin a person who hasn't even received the cult master's favor because of her beauty. He wants to sully her reputation. As a woman, Yi Chung Feng was incomparably angry. Zhang Xiu secretly shook his head. The matter happened 2 nights ago, and it was only now that it was exposed. It could be seen that this Lord Su was only Zhang Xiu said, Immortal Dr. Ji wants to help this Miss Su. Yi Chung Feng realized that she had made mistake, so she restrained her anger and smiled. I can intervene in these matters, but it's just that I feel a little disdainful. Ji Wuhua's other impersonator was a protector of the Mingdu cult, whose position was above the 12 earthly fiends. If she wanted to, she could definitely intervene. She probably didn't want to complicate things. Zhang Xiu asked, I wonder if Immortal Dr. Ji thinks that the Su clan can seek justice? Yi Chung Feng returned to his seat and took a sip from his wine cup. Of course not. The Su family plays politics, but it's not even worth mentioning in front of the 12 earthly fiends that the Dark Crossing cult relies on the most. To put it simply, without the Su family, the Dark Crossing cult has no effect at all. Without the power of Ming Luo, one of the 12 earthly fiends, the Dark Crossing cult's overall power will drop by a lot. If it were anyone else, the sect master of the Nether Crossing cult would make the same choice. Zhang Xiu smiled slightly. Just as he thought, from the perspective of a superior who had to face external enemies at the highest level, this was not a problem at all. The answer was clear as day, but those involved could not see clearly. It was just like a small employee in a company who did not understand what the boss was thinking. Different positions would see different things. The noise gradually faded away. Your Honor, are you planning to stay for dinner? Zhang Xiu said, There's nowhere to go. How could he not hear that Ji Wuhua was asking him to leave? However, Zhang Xiu pretended not to understand. How hateful. Yi Chung Feng furrowed his brows in anger. He was secretly shameless. He realized that he could not be polite to Zhang Xiu. This guy was insatiable. But I don't have any food prepared for guests. Your Honor, please help yourself. All right, he didn't give him any face and gave the order to chase him away. Zhang Xiu only stood up. He brushed off some petals on his body and said, Immortal doctors have strange tempers. Forget it, it's not difficult to find a place to eat. After saying that, Zhang Xiu turned around and left. Looking at his back, Yi Chung Feng cursed again. Bastard. After leaving the Yi residence, Zhang Xiu went straight to the Su residence. This one is Zhang Xiu. I'm here to pay a visit to young Miss Su. Today, there were not as many people in front of the Su residence as before. Since young Miss Su had gone to the Vermilion Bird Tower, most of her pursuers had given up. My family's young miss is not receiving guests. Zhang Xiu said, We made an appointment. Hearing him say this, the servant went back to report. When Su Ying heard that Zhang Xiu had come, she was astonished. Why is he here? He even came to my door in public. However, she was even more surprised. Without any hesitation, she said, Quickly invite him in. When Su Ying saw this man again, her heart was not calm. However, she did not want him to see it. With a cold face, she said, Guangxing, why did you come to find me again? Didn't I tell you not to come find me again? Zhang Xiu was stunned. He had saved her twice with a big smile, yet she had this kind of attitude. Su Ying waved her hand and said disdainfully, Forget it. Since you're already here, why did you come to find me? Zhang Xiu said, Is this how you receive guests? You haven't eaten yet? Su Ying widened her beautiful eyes and said, You can't be thinking of coming to my house to eat, right? Zhang Xiu secretly shook his head. If Su Ying wasn't Shui Wuyao's adopted daughter, he really wouldn't want to get involved in this mess. He opened his mouth and said, A meal in exchange for your life. Is this a loss? I'm here to save you. Su Ying said, Why are you scaring people for a meal? Is this appropriate? The blue veins on Zhang Xiu's forehead were about to pop out. Forget it, forget it. Since you're here, I'll treat you to a meal. She was really generous. She invited Zhang Xiu to a banquet in the courtyard. Say it. How did you save my life? Su Ying knew that a smart person like Zhang Xiu would not come to her door for no reason. However, she could not help but make trouble for him. Her heart was filled with joy. Zhang Xiu drank a mouthful of wine. Your Su family making a big fuss is indeed the only way to save you. However, Su family is not as important as Ming Luo in the eyes of Ming Du's leader. In the end, the Su family will be the one to suffer. Su Ying said, Humph. Ming Luo is persecuting the leader's woman. Could it be that the leader is also a man? How can he tolerate this kind of behavior that crosses the line? Zhang Xiu shook his head. You don't understand how a leader who has to face an external enemy thinks. Women are luxuries in their eyes, but Ming Luo is unobtainable. He said it quite tactfully. He did not directly say that the leader only treated beautiful women as playthings. However, which ambitious and ruthless person was not like this? Would they blame their general for a woman? Absolutely not. Liu Bei even threw his own son, let alone a woman he had never met before. Su Ying frowned. Although she was uncomfortable, she felt that Zhang Xiu's words made sense. She slowly calmed down. Zhang Xiu said, Of course, the leader will not reveal the truth to the world. He will only distort the truth. When the time comes, the unlucky one will be your Su family. In order to protect yourself, I'm afraid the unlucky one will be you. Zhang Xiu had overestimated Lord Su's power. When he found out that Lord Su only let the news spread throughout the city 2 days later, he knew that Lord Su was not as important as Ming Luo. Su Ying's gaze was fixed on Zhang Xiu. What do you mean? Zhang Xiu looked at her with cold eyes. In the end, Su family will only push you out for the sake of so many people. According to Ming Du's way of doing things, you will be executed. Su Ying stood up from her seat with a whoosh. The wine cups on the table were knocked to the ground. She looked at Zhang Xiu while breathing heavily. The servant who came to deliver the food and wine bumped into Lord Su on his way back. Lord Su asked, Who are the food and wine for? The servant said, Master, there is a young master outside who claims to be Zhang Xiu. He is meeting with the young miss. Young master? Lord Su was feeling vexed. His family had met with great trouble. No matter what, they had offended one of the 12 earthly fiends, Ming Luo. These 12 earthly fiends were rumored to be either the cult master's children or disciples. Their statuses were revered, but he was absolutely unwilling to let his daughter be defiled by others. Now, he wholeheartedly planned to complain to the cult master. You dare to pester my daughter? You really don't know the meaning of death. Lord Su's face darkened. If this matter was spread out, it would only add to the storm. Humph. He strode towards Su Ying's small building. From afar, he could see the lights in the courtyard. Opposite the long table, there was a young man who looked to be in his 20s or 30s. Father. Su Ying saw him first. Lord Su responded, Are you Xiao Ying's friend? Zhang Xiu nodded. Yes, that's right. This Lord Su was very stylish. He looked at Zhang Xiu indifferently and said in an unfriendly tone, Come with me. I have something to say to you. There were 2 old men following behind him, and it seemed that their cultivation levels were not low. Father, don't make things difficult for him. Lord Su said, Father knows what to do. Chapter 706. Lord Su called Zhang Xiu to the side. From the first time he saw Zhang Xiu, he felt disgust. This disgust wasn't because of Zhang Xiu, but because he disliked any boy who walked with his daughter. This was because his daughter was going to become the sect leader's woman, and one day, even the mother of the world. How could she have any interaction with an ordinary boy? Standing by the pond, Lord Su looked at Zhang Xiu with disdain and said, You like my daughter, so you want to pursue her? Zhang Xiu was speechless and wanted to laugh. This was really a joke. Brat, don't be delusional. My daughter will definitely return to the Sparrow Tower and become the sect leader's woman. She is one of the new top 10 beauties, so she is destined to not be an ordinary person. Do you understand what I mean? Zhang Xiu smiled. This time, other than the so-called top 10 beauties of the Green Spirit Mountain, there were also the so-called top 10 geniuses. However, not a single one of them made it to the top of the Green Spirit Mountain list this time. Lu Li was the only one who was truly famous among the top 10 beauties. Moreover, this list was changed every 10 years. For mortals, 10 years might be a long time, but for immortal cultivators, 10 years was a long time. According to Zhang Xiu's age of 4,000 years, an ordinary person would be 100 years old. Changing the list every 2.5 months, could this still be considered a list? Was this destined to not be ordinary? As for you, Sai, brat, Xiaoying isn't someone like you can have extravagant hopes for. Lord Su said with a sigh, as if he didn't feel sad for Zhang Xiu and the others. Zhang Xiu said, "Oh, is that so?" Lord Su said, "I know you are unconvinced, but don't say things like don't bully a poor youth. You are still young, so you don't know the outside world, what kind of attitude the strong have, and how they can control the fates of ordinary people. Right now, you are unconvinced and think that you are very good. You are so arrogant that you can shout to the heavens that one day, I will make you regret it." He patted Zhang Xiu's shoulder and said, "Ignorance leads to arrogance. If you stand high one day, you will realize how laughable it was for you to have such thoughts in the past. People need to understand reverence to be able to go further." He pointed to the distance. "That is the palace, where the sect leader lives. Do you feel the pressure in your face? Feel the unattainable distance?" Lord Su's expression was serious and filled with reverence. How many people dream of setting foot there? They fought for it their whole lives, but can't even touch the door? Face reality. Lord Su slowly turned his head and said to Zhang Xiu, "Tell me, what are your conditions for you to disappear from Xiaoying's world forever?" "Official position, secret techniques, and money." Zhang Xiu's eyes gradually turned cold. What an arrogant fellow. However, Zhang Xiu wouldn't go so far as to tell him that he was the Sky Motion Sect's sect master. That would be too embarrassing. No one would expose their own name. If a so-called superstar met a commoner who didn't know him, and the commoner didn't buy his words, then he pointed at himself and said, "I'm a superstar." That scene would be as stupid as it could get. This person wasn't Su Ying's real father. Zhang Xiu turned and left. "Lord, this person is too presumptuous." The old man next to him had a cold expression. "Humph, he's just an ignorant person. For the sake of his pitiful backbone, he missed a chance to rise in his life." Lord Su shook his head secretly. He didn't mention that he had been rebuffed. Instead, he seemed to feel sorry for Zhang Xiu. Another old man also said, "To be able to get some help from Lord TSK. This kid will probably regret it until his intestines turn green." Lord Su's expression turned cold. "Of course, do you think this Lord's opportunity is given casually?" Zhang Xiu didn't go to see Su Ying again. Instead, he left the Su residence and landed on a roof somewhere. After the Ghost Orchid Festival, there would be a sacrificial hall in the Netherworld Church. The leader would patrol the palace. This would be the biggest festival in the Netherworld Church. The Su family would probably make things difficult for Ming Luo on this point. They would announce Ming Luo's ugly behavior in front of the world and fight for a chance to win. Ming Luo would definitely not give the Su family a chance to take advantage of. Therefore, Zhang Xiu guessed that he would send people to kill Su Ying. The night was beautiful. The lights in the city waned. There was an indescribable hazy feeling, as if heaven and earth were covered with a layer of soft light. Until late at night, 2 clouds of black smoke floated over from the distant horizon. Ming Sha. It was Ming Luo's 2 subordinates. "You've come earlier than expected." Under the full moon, the starry sky flashed, and a person suddenly appeared in front of them. The night wind blew his hair, and his clothes fluttered. "Who are you?" One of them, Ming Sha, spoke. His voice was very low. Zhang Xiu opened his mouth and said, you want to go to the Su family to kill someone? Ming Sha said, you're a bodyguard hired by the Su family? Zhang Xiu said, not really, but you can't touch Su Ying. Immediately scram back or die here. Ha ha ha, Ming Sha laughed. His laughter was like a ghost's cry in the middle of the night. You're courting death. His body suddenly flashed and he rushed over with black smoke. Ming Sha's strength was very strong. This was recognized in the immortal martial continent. However, they didn't know that the person standing in front of them was actually the Qianqing school's sect master, Jiang Luoxia. A fierce sword slashed out. The surging Ming Sha crashed towards Zhang Xiu. However, the powerful sword and the super corrosive power of Ming Sha couldn't even touch Zhang Xiu's skin. It was blocked by the faint light on his body. The sword light slashed onto his body and collapsed on the spot. What's wrong? Ming Sha's eyes widened in shock. He looked at Zhang Xiu as if he was looking at a monster. The sword slashed onto his body and the sword light collapsed. They realized that they had met an expert. Who are you? Zhang Xiu's eyes were cold. He lightly spat out, you don't have the qualifications. A golden talisman seal in his hand flew towards Ming Sha's forehead. With a whoosh, it disappeared into Ming Sha's head. Boom! A cloud of black smoke exploded on the spot. Even his corpse didn't exist. Run! The other Ming Sha was so frightened that he transformed into a ball of flames on the spot and started burning. It was actually the flame-drawing escape technique. Although it was far from being comparable to Zhang Xiu's heavenly fire-traversing heaven technique, as long as there was a flame in the distance, he would be able to escape. And the range of the escape depended on one's cultivation. Some people could see as far as 10 miles away from a village. The Vermilion Bird Tower was only a short distance away from the Su residence. On the ascending Sparrow Tower, Min Luo was holding the transfer order and speaking to the Imperial Guard beside him. Cult Master will be patrolling the heavens tomorrow to offer sacrifices to the Nether Water Calamity. That's our sect's most valuable treasure. There can't be a single mistake. If there's even the slightest mistake, all of our heads will roll. Yes. At this moment, the flame of the oil lamp on his long table flickered. The image of the escaping Ming Sha appeared and was about to flash out. He's back? Ming Luo was slightly surprised. He moved so quickly. Is it done? However, in the image of Ming Sha in the flame, his face was contorted in pain and fear. He seemed to be shouting something, but his voice couldn't be heard. Immediately after, he seemed to be dragged out by some kind of force. The image disappeared in the flame. Only a drop of blood landed on the flame. With a sizzling sound, it emitted a pungent smell of blood. With a swoosh, Ming Luo stood up from his seat. He clenched his fists tightly. How dare you kill my people? He was also very shocked. The other party actually forcefully broke Ming Sha's escape technique and killed him when he was executing it. This required a very high level of cultivation in the fire escape technique to be able to do it. Ming Sha was a heaven immortal. If the other party forcefully killed him, his strength might have reached the level of a great heaven immortal. How could he be on the same level as him? The Su family actually invited such an expert? Ming Luo's face was ashen. General, do you want me to wait? Ming Luo waved his hand. No need. The other party's cultivation isn't low to be able to stop the fire escape technique and kill Ming Sha. Even if you go, you won't be able to do anything unless I do it personally. He was confident in his identity. In addition, if the news of him taking action was leaked, the situation would be very bad. Tomorrow's matter is more important. Although Ming Luo was worried that the Su family would cause trouble in the sky patrolling the heavens tomorrow, with his position in the netherworld, it wasn't something that this pair of father and daughter could move. If they exposed him in front of the cult leader, he would at most be scolded by the cult leader. This wasn't a big deal. Chapter 707. Dark Water Calamity. Through Ming Sha's escape technique, Zhang Xiu saw Ming Luo's group from the flame and heard their conversation. A familiar name. He remembered. One of the 5 heavenly water sources, the dark water calamity, was actually a water calamity. Because of Ming-Du, there were only 5 drops of heavenly water sources, and this water calamity was one of them. Because of Ming-Du's cultivation system, everyone was afraid, and so was the sect master of Ming-Du. However, he controlled one of the 5 heavenly water sources, the water calamity, which just happened to overcome this weakness. Therefore, he was superior to everyone else. For such an important day to survey the heavens, of course, he had to guard it strictly. In the past, when he was an immortal cultivator, Jiang Xiu did not understand heavenly water and only scratched the surface. The main reason was that the Tao of water was too gentle and did not match Jiang Xiu's nature. However, he also knew that the water calamity was not ordinary. It could not be tolerated by heaven and earth and had to be punished. The sect master of Ming-Du's heavenly survey was probably to help the water calamity avoid the calamity. Jiang Xiu knew about this from the Lingxi Pavilion. At that time, he did not have any enmity with the Lingxi Pavilion. One calamity took 300 years. In other words, such a heavenly survey only happened once every 300 years. The water calamity is a precious treasure. Could it be Ji Wuhua's goal for so many years? When Jiang Xiu thought about this, he had an idea. His great god-sealing technique, the 6 weapons unifying Tao, left the stone tablet. The 6 weapons contained the water path, and his progress on the heavenly water law could only be described as pitiful. If he could obtain the water calamity, he could obtain all the laws contained in it, and his strength would soar greatly. The 6 weapons were time, space, wind, fire, water, and earth. What he was investigating now was the last step of fire. The laws of water and earth had not been started for long. If he could integrate the heavenly water law into his natal Dharma artifact, he would have taken a big step to erect the God-sealing monument. Only the laws of earth and heavenly fire were left. It was just around the corner. Thinking about this, Jiang Xiu could not help but feel excited. He bought 2 bottles of sake from the winery and hooked the wine jar with a rope before going to Yi Chengfeng's house. When he arrived, the lights inside were dim, and a graceful figure was cast on the window, causing one's imagination to run wild. This should be Ji Wuhua's true face. Who is it? Yi Chengfeng shouted harshly. Me. Jiang Xiu sat on the opposite roof. The next moment, he saw Yi Chengfeng flying over with his white clothes fluttering in the wind. Yi Chengfeng's sword-like eyebrows were furrowed and he looked at Jiang Xiu vigilantly. He seemed to be very angry. Judging from her various expressions, Jiang Xiu guessed that she might have revealed her true appearance just now. Although he didn't see it clearly, he only saw an outline. It was probably the first time that Ji Wuhua was seen by someone. Jiang Xiu said, "Why are you glaring at me so fiercely? Sit down." He even threw a jar of wine over. Yi Chengfeng said, "You want me to forgive your offense with just a pot of cheap roadside wine?" Jiang Xiu said, "Did I offend you?" Yi Chengfeng coldly looked at him and sat down. At this moment, he was an elegant and beautiful youth. Moreover, arguing with this scoundrel would not lead to any results. "What are you doing here again?" Jiang Xiu said, "Tomorrow, Ming-Du will teach the Heaven Patrol a lesson. With such a grand scene, I want to invite you to—" "Stop!" Yi Chengfeng rudely interrupted. "Jiang Xiu, right? I don't seem to be familiar with you at all. I have already made a concession. Now, you only need to wait. Since I have promised to save your friend, I will definitely fulfill my promise." Jiang Xiu coldly looked at him and said indifferently, "I only want to invite immortal Dr. Ji to celebrate the festival together. Why do you have to be so fierce and reject me?" Yi Chengfeng said, "I will tell you clearly now that I am not willing." Jiang Xiu said, "Tomorrow, does immortal Dr. Ji have something to do or do I need to give you an explanation?" Jiang Xiu said, "Originally, I wasn't sure either. However, for immortal Dr. Ji to stay in Ming-Du, a place that doesn't have enough spiritual energy for so many years, she definitely has an unusual goal. Until your intense reaction just now, I think my guess shouldn't be wrong. You are here for Ming-Du's treasure, the dark water tribulation, right?" The anger on Yi Qingfeng's face gradually disappeared and his eyes flashed. Don't speak nonsense. I am not here for this matter. Zhang Xiu said. Then what is it for? Yi Qingfeng couldn't reply and angrily said, Do I need to explain to you what I want to do? The night was very beautiful. The lights dimmed and the wind on the roof was very strong, blowing Zhang Xiu's clothes. He raised his wine jug and drank a few mouthfuls. Don't be so hostile towards me. I just want to ask you to treat my illness. You can say that I am your patient's family. I just want to get close to you. Zhang Xiu turned his head and looked over. Perhaps I can even help? Yi Qingfeng found that Zhang Xiu was very hard to deal with. It seemed that no matter how much he tried to hide, he couldn't escape his eyes. He could only sit down patiently and drink a few mouthfuls of wine. Zhang Xiu's voice entered his ears. Actually, it isn't hard to guess. Immortal Dr. Ji is an immortal king and has outstanding strength. However, the possibility of snatching the dark water tribulation from Ming Du's sect master is close to zero. Using the identity of a protector and starting to set up a trap is indeed a good method. It is just that it wastes a bit of time. Yi Qingfeng's expression was a bit ugly. If you continue to speak nonsense, our agreement will be cancelled. Zhang Xiu said, Tomorrow is an important day. It only happens once every 300 years. If you miss this chance, you will have to wait another 300 years. Why would you cancel the agreement? I already said that I can help you. Yi Qingfeng really couldn't win against this scoundrel. He sighed and drank a few mouthfuls of wine before saying, I did come from the dark water tribulation. She suspected that Zhang Xiu was one of Ming Du's people. However, if the sect master suspected her, as long as there was even a trace of doubt, he would eliminate it without hesitation. Therefore, Zhang Xiu shouldn't be one of the sect master's people. He could really be someone who was seeking medical treatment. Since Zhang Xiu saw through the matter, she could only accept it. Zhang Xiu said, This is really difficult. Yi Qingfeng remained silent. He wouldn't tell Zhang Xiu his plan. Zhang Xiu sighed and said, I originally thought that immortal Dr. Ji was above worldly matters. I didn't expect that you would put in so much effort for worldly matters. Could it be that you encountered a problem in your cultivation that you can't solve, so you can only rely on the dark water tribulation? Yi Qingfeng shook his head. His eyes were a bit dim. In the distance, the tallest and brightest building in the city was the Sparrow Tower. At this moment, it was still lit, as if it was thinking about something. Immortal Dr. Ji has saved countless people in your life. Why didn't you ask a few people who have received your kindness to help you? Why did you put in so much effort? If you failed, the pain and regret would be hard to accept. Zhang Xiu believed that with immortal Dr. Ji's medical skills, it wouldn't be difficult to find a few immortal kings to help him steal the water tribulation. Moreover, this method was more reliable than using a scheme. If there was a slight mistake in a scheme, all would be for naught. But if it was a simple and crude method of stealing and beating the other party down, how could they not give it to him? Yi Qingfeng said, That's easy for you to say. The sect master of Ming Du's cultivation isn't low. Normal immortal kings aren't his match. Moreover, to deal with one immortal king, you need to invite 4. Ming Du has 3 immortal kings. I need to invite 12. Where do you want me to find them? Immortal kings weren't cabbages that could be found everywhere. Medium-sized sects didn't even have 1 immortal king. Those that had 2 or 3 immortal kings were the best amongst the medium-sized sections. Sects like the Qianqing school that had 13 immortal kings were all top sections. There weren't many of them in the entire immortal martial arts. Someone had asked the Consonance Pavilion how many immortal kings there were in the immortal martial arts. The Consonance Pavilion's answer was that they didn't have an answer. However, it was definitely less than one could imagine. Zhang Xiu leaned back with his hands behind his head. He looked up at the starry sky and said, It's really difficult. What do you want the water tribulation for? Maybe you can use something else to replace it. The 5 heavenly water sources have different experiences, but their effects shouldn't be too different. If it's used for cultivation, they should all be replaceable. Yi Chung-fong turned to look at Jiang Xiu and said, I don't want the dark water tribulation for cultivation, but for someone. Jiang Xiu saw a trace of hatred and killing intent in her eyes. Using the dark water tribulation to deal with someone? I'm good at killing people. Deal with who? Yi Chung-fong said word by word, Ming Yuzi. Chapter 708. Ming Yuzi. Jiang Xiu's expression changed slightly as surprise flashed in his eyes. The person you want to deal with is the sect master of the Nether Crossing cult. Do you have a grudge with him? In Jiang Xiu's impression, the three immortal doctors were all extraordinary people who were obsessed with the Tao of medicine and stayed away from the disputes of the immortal martial arts. Ji Wuhua had been hiding in the Nether Crossing cult for so many years because of Ming Yuzi. Yi Chung-fong said, Don't worry about that. Didn't you just say that you would help me? Are you still willing to help me now? Jiang Xiu nodded. Yi Chung-fong looked straight at Jiang Xiu with some surprise in her eyes. There were not many people who had the courage to intervene in the face of the sect master of the Nether Crossing cult. Ming Yuzi is very strong, but the most terrifying thing is the Nether water tribulation. The cultivation system of the Nether Crossing cult is restrained by water. Almost everyone has such a weakness. However, after Ming Yuzi has the Nether water tribulation, even his only weakness is gone. The only chance is to steal his Nether water tribulation. You also said that such an opportunity only comes once every 300 years. So, there must not be the slightest mistake. Jiang Xiu nodded slightly. A person who wanted to take revenge could wait for 300 years. The torture in the heart must be very torturous. Many people couldn't even bear it and went crazy. Now that the opportunity was in front of her, Ji Wuhua was very nervous and excited. Then what's your plan? What do you need me to do? Yi Chung-fong shook her head and said, I don't need anything. As long as you don't destroy it, it will be the greatest help to me. Jiang Xiu touched his nose awkwardly. Did you hear that? Yi Chung-fong had planned for this day for so long. Her plan should be perfect. Jiang Xiu had rashly intervened, so he must have a plan. This was definitely not what she wanted. My plan has already prepared everything. Jiang Xiu said, Then take me in. Maybe I can take care of you. The heaven patrolling heavens was very eye-catching. There was also a large array in the palace. If he wanted to sneak in without a cover, he would be easily discovered. He needed another layer of identity. Yi Chung-fong originally did not intend to bring Jiang Xiu into the palace. His plan would not be affected if he was outside. However, he was afraid that Jiang Xiu would mess around outside. After thinking about it, he finally nodded. After saying that, Yi Chung-fong floated the wine jug towards the roof. On the day of the heavenly patrol, Jiang Xiu successfully entered the palace under the arrangement of Ji Wuhua, the fake elder. In fact, Jiang Xiu was wrong. This day was a celebration for Mingdu. Many people had entered the palace through their connections. It was a rare opportunity to enter. Many people had never entered the palace in their lives. Of course, they would not miss such an opportunity. Of course, the guards were also very strict in maintaining order. They were not allowed to enter the sacrificial altar area. Big Brother Jiang is a foreigner? Beside Jiang Xiu was a young man called Lin Mingho. He should be working in the palace. Wearing the palace's clothes, he looked no more than 16 or 17 years old. Seeing that Jiang Xiu was a friend of the protector, he was very flattering and respectful. Yes, a foreigner. Lin Mingho said, Where is Big Brother Jiang from? Qing Province. Lin Mingho's eyes widened exaggeratedly. A foreigner. The foreigner he was referring to was the Wind Province outside Mingdu. Qing Province is very far. Many people can't get there even if they walk for a lifetime. I heard that it is a sacred place for immortals. Jiang Xiu said, It's okay. The spiritual qi there is indeed richer than in the Wind Province. There were demons in the Wind Province. It was unknown whether it was because of the demons that the spiritual qi decreased or because of the low spiritual qi. This was a question of which came first. Lord Su, Lord Su. The group of people all moved aside. They saw a middle-aged man in official robes walk over with a pleased expression. It was Lord Su. Behind him was a beautiful and enchanting woman, causing everyone to raise their eyebrows and cry out in surprise. Who else could it be but Su Ying? She was dressed up today. Her nobility did not lose its charm and enchanting. Her charm was also somewhat dignified. The smile on Lord Su's face suddenly stopped. He saw Zhang Xiu in the distance and his expression changed. He said to his daughter beside him, "Little Ying, get in the carriage first." Su Ying originally came in a carriage. It was not appropriate for a girl to show her face in public. However, Lord Su's vanity entered the palace and had Su Ying get out of the carriage, causing an uproar. He also wanted this matter to blow up and spread the news into the palace and the sect master's ears. However, he did not expect that he would pretend to be Zhang Xiu here. Su Ying also saw Zhang Xiu and her heart was slightly moved. She was happy and worried at the same time. She was happy because Zhang Xiu's purpose for coming here was self-evident. She felt that this boy should have fallen in love with her. She was worried because he would cause trouble in the palace and even steal her. The consequences could be imagined. Thinking of the heavy responsibility she had, Su Ying's heart dimmed. In the end, she would not be able to leave with him. "Yes," she responded and slowly got into the carriage. "Why are you here?" Zhang Xiu said, "I came with a friend to watch Mingdu's heavenly inspecting ceremony that is held once every 300 years. I want to see Mingdu's customs." "Humph." Lord Su coldly snorted. Only a ghost would believe such words. He stared at Zhang Xiu and coldly said, "Brat, don't play any tricks with me. Xiao Ying will not follow you. Give up. Also, don't say that I didn't persuade you. If you dare to cause trouble here, you will only be digging your own grave." He did not care about Zhang Xiu's life or death. He was worried that the Su family would be implicated because of this. "If you want to die, scram further away." After speaking, he ordered the group of people behind him to walk forward. Su Ying sat in the carriage and listened to everything outside. She lowered her head sadly. She really wanted to lift the curtain and look at Zhang Xiu, but she had no choice but to resist this action. If her heart softened, it would definitely give Zhang Xiu the wrong signal and cause him to do something even crazier. She softly muttered, "I'm sorry." The car drove in through the high walls of the inner courtyard, and there were fewer people inside. Only a small number of people could enter the inner courtyard, and those who couldn't go in had gone to the top of the tall buildings to watch the survey of heaven ceremony from afar. There were several high walls, each one blocking some people outside. Every place had a clear hierarchy. This was something that no one could change, not even the animals. Zhang Xiu, led by the palace servant Lin Mingho, walked all the way to the innermost high wall and watched the heavenly inspecting ceremony proudly. Seeing that Zhang Xiu had walked all the way to the innermost court and was even in the same place as him, Lord Su was slightly surprised, and he was even more furious in his heart. Su Ying, on the other hand, became even more nervous. "What should I do? What should I do?" Zhang Xiu's gaze swept across the square heaven worship altar below in the distance and found Ji Wuhua, who had transformed into an elder, in the crowd. He wondered in his heart how Ji Wuhua would steal the water tribulation. The sect leader has arrived. With a shout, the whole palace suddenly boiled up. Countless people cheered. Different from the etiquette outside, they did not kneel down on both knees or kowtow 3 times and 9 times. Instead, they bowed deeply with their hands folded, which was very scholarly. From this point of view, it was actually more open than many imperial courts outside. It was a bit like a sect. Perhaps the establishment of the Nether Fairy cult was originally a cultivation sect, and it merged with the imperial court later. A man wearing a green mask with fangs slowly walked onto the altar. His mask should be unique. His clothes were black, but there were a lot of golden edges, which showed a bit of luxury. Under the support of his tall figure, he showed the demeanor of a king. He was Ming Yuzi, the master of the Nether Fairy cult. Zhang Xiu felt a very powerful but strange aura from him. He couldn't tell what it was, but it was indeed different from ordinary people. In particular, there was a feeling of sin on him. Was that the aura of the water tribulation? When this feeling of sin accumulated to a certain extent, it would attract a tribulation. At this moment, it was so strong that it had to be sacrificed to the heavens to punish the sin, and this sin would naturally be added to the possessor. If he didn't go through this tribulation, not only the water tribulation might not be tolerated in the world, but even he himself might not be tolerated in the world. This also showed that there was no powerful thing in the world that could last forever. No matter how powerful it was, it had to be restrained. This was the natural law, and as long as it existed, it would follow this natural law. Step by step, he climbed up the altar. Under the sunlight, his body emitted a black aura. Sect leader, I want to complain. Chapter 709. Lord Su struggled to rush out from the crowd and knelt on the ground, shouting, "Sect leader, you must seek justice for me, sect leader." Ming Yuzi was wearing a mask and his expression could not be seen clearly. One could only see his ferocious face and fangs, but it was very frightening. Lord Su did not even dare to raise his head and knelt on the ground, trembling. Zhang Xiu secretly shook his head. This day was a grand occasion and a festival for the people of Mingdu, but to Ming Yuzi, it was a disaster. Who would be in a good mood when facing a disaster? Even if he wanted to complain, he would have to wait until after the heavenly patrol. He was impatient, so how could there be any fruit? The 12 earthly fiends were all present, including Ming Luo. His face darkened. My daughter, Su Ying, is one of the top 10 beauties in the new list. She was ordered to enter the Sparrow Tower by sect leader's order, but Ming Luo said that my daughter would bring disaster to the palace in the future and wanted someone to ruin her chastity. My daughter would rather die than obey, so she escaped from the Sparrow Tower and hid at home. Sect leader, please investigate. The surrounding officials were all silent. Since Su Ying entered the Sparrow Tower, she was the sect leader's woman. Ming Luo found someone to defile her. It was not a big deal, but it was not a small matter either. It was enough to pin the crime of sect leader Lu on him, or even treason. Sect leader, please seek justice for your daughter. Su Ying also knelt beside her father. Ming Yuzi's eyes under the mask stared coldly at Lord Su and Su Ying, who were prostrating on the ground. After a while, he spat out, "Leave." His voice was cold, with a hint of anger. Sect. Lord Su did not dare to believe it. When the sky was falling, especially as a man, how could he tolerate such a thing? He should be furious, but why did it turn out like this? Lord Su was not reconciled. He looked confused and did not dare to believe it. Then he glanced at Ming Luo, who snorted at him with a murderous look in his eyes. No monarch liked these people fighting for power, and even crossing the line. Although they would not do anything to him, his impression of him would be greatly reduced. Of course, Ming Luo would not let him off so easily. Sect leader, Ming Yuzi said angrily, back off. Lord Su jumped in fright and his entire body started trembling. Su Ying's expression also changed drastically. She did not expect Zhang Xiu to be right. The outcome of this matter would only be her bad luck. There was panic in her eyes. She lifted her eyes, which were glistening with tears. Ming Yuzi inadvertently glanced at her and happened to see the little fox's aggrieved look. A man who could build Sparrow Tower would naturally be a lecherous man. After that glance, his gaze changed. We'll discuss it after the Heaven Patrol. Hearing this, Lord Su finally had a glimmer of hope. Sky Patrol. The sound of singing was accompanied by the sound of heavy drums in the palace. A person wearing a mask, pure white clothes, and bare hands and feet danced and danced. He was also chanting strange incantations from his mouth. The surroundings gradually darkened. This kind of strange incantation filled the entire world, and the sound of drums continuously reverberated in the sky. In the middle of the sacrificial altar, there was a square cyan iron cauldron. It was hard to tell what era it was from. It was very heavy, and there were runes densely written on it. Heaven's Inquisition runes. This discovery greatly surprised Jiang Xiu. However, Ming Yuzi stood over and happened to block Jiang Xiu's line of sight. His body emitted a faint white watery light, which formed a sharp contrast with his evil aura. The watery light became more and more condensed, and the faint sound of waves could be heard. Water tribulation. Jiang Xiu's expression changed slightly. This power was actually so strong that even a top-level divine king like him was moved. There was an abnormally terrifying aura contained within it, as if a disaster would descend at any time. This was a kind of heavenly might, a terrifying heavenly might. This kind of thing was really very rare. The 5 great heavenly water sources were indeed not fake. Whoosh! There was an uproar. The Heaven Patrol was held once every 300 years, and it was the first time many people had seen a water tribulation in their lives. The watery light on Ming Yuzi's body became even brighter, as if a huge water ball had wrapped around him. The water ball swayed. Heavy, light, soft, gather, tribulation. Jiang Xiu only glanced at the surface of the water tribulation, and he knew that it contained many laws. How? There were cries of surprise. The sky suddenly turned dark, and it was eerie and terrifying. Everyone had a bad premonition, as if something very bad was about to happen. Heavens! Ming Yuzi raised his head high and spread his arms wide. The incantation from his mouth was continuously recited. The black wind blew wildly, causing everyone present to be unable to open their eyes. Even if they opened their eyes, they would not be able to see anything. The water tribulation began to condense. Jiang Xiu still did not know how Ming Du helped him avoid the water tribulation. It should have something to do with the square cauldron. About an hour later, Ming Yuzi's chanting came to an end. He suddenly pointed at the square cauldron, and the water tribulation on his body left his body and surged into the square cauldron. Let the water tribulation leave the body. This was indeed a safer method. If the water tribulation was still on his body and he failed, he would not only lose the water tribulation, but also his life. When is Ji Wuhua going to make his move? The water in the square cauldron continued to increase, and the water line was filled very quickly. Because the water tribulation contained many laws, ordinary tools could not contain it. Just the heavenly law was enough to destroy an ordinary divine cauldron, and this cauldron was safe and sound. It was definitely not an ordinary item. Moreover, there was the Heaven's Inquisition talisman on it. Pop, pop, pop. The sound of waves continued to resound. After about half an hour, Ming Yuzi finally finished injecting the dark water tribulation on his body into the square cauldron, almost filling it up. At this point, Ming Yuzi finally moved aside, allowing Jiang Xiu to see the Heaven's Inquisition talisman clearly. He read it word by word in his heart, and the expression on his face could not help but change. His eyes were filled with astonishment, and then he fell silent. What was written on it was an incantation, and also a story that once existed. This story was very similar to a story on Earth. It was said that after the death of a lama in a certain part of Tibet on Earth, it would attract an eagle from the sky. As for those with profound Taoist skills and revered status, the eagle would go and eat their flesh. This was a kind of divine and unfathomable mystery of the heavens. And according to the words on the square cauldron, after the death of the sect master, a strange demon would be attracted to eat him. This demon was called the Yen Su dragon, and this square cauldron was originally used to suppress the Yen Su dragon. However, after a long time, people gradually forgot the true use of this square cauldron. Instead, it was used to store the water tribulation and help the water tribulation pass the tribulation. The water tribulation in the square cauldron was like a vast and boundless sea, with raging waves that surged endlessly. Jiang Xiu was surprised. The Heaven's Inquisition talisman on the square cauldron actually had such an effect. He seemed to have grasped something, but he did not seem to understand anything. It was very profound. When will Ji Wuhua make a move? At this time, The water tribulation was out of the control of the sect master, and he had also lost the protection of the water tribulation. He was now unprecedentedly weak, and it was the best time to make a move. If it were Zhang Xiu, he would definitely make a move at this moment. To be honest, it was not difficult for him to kill and seize the treasure. However, this was someone else's business after all. He could not exceed his authority. If there was something that Zhang Xiu did not know about, it would be troublesome if he messed up Ji Wuhua's matter. The sky was still dark, and the wind was so strong that people could not open their eyes. Many people used their hands to block the wind. However, Ming Yuzi waved his hand, and the cold wind was actually dispersed by him. Although it was not completely dispersed, it allowed people to see clearly, but the surroundings were still dark. Lord Su, what did you say just now? Hearing this, Lord Su slowly ran out from inside and knelt in front of the sect master. Please save the sect master and uphold justice. My daughter was almost killed by General Ming Luo. Su Ying also echoed and said, Please uphold justice for me, sect master. Ming Luo's face was livid, but he did not dare to be presumptuous in front of the sect master. He did not even dare to defend himself. Ming Yuzi said, Come on, take the father and daughter of the Su family down and behead them. Chapter 7:10. The sudden change caused an uproar among the crowd. It was too sudden. They thought that the leader would punish Ming Luo for the crime. After all, the Su father and daughter were the victims. Ming Luo was indeed too overbearing in this matter. Was there no justice in the world when one had power? This move would even cause public outrage. After all, everyone had the desire to improve themselves. Such overbearing suppression and destruction was simply not giving people a way out. However, not only did the leader not punish Ming Luo, he actually wanted to execute the Su father and daughter. Everyone was very shocked, but who dared to object to the leader's words? Leader, please spare our lives. Lord Su hurriedly cried out. Leader, this little girl has been wronged. Su Ying also turned pale with fright. She had never thought of this point. Ming Yuzi actually did not play by the rules. Not only did he not punish them, he even wanted to execute them. The leader's eyes were cold, without a trace of wavering. The guards had already come up to pull them down. The side of the field became absolutely silent. The atmosphere suddenly became incomparably oppressive and terrifying. The cold machetes in the guards' hands flashed with a cold light. Seeing this, Lord Su's face was completely pale. The leader was temperamental to begin with. Moreover, Ming Luo's punishment was very severe. The slightest crime would be sentenced to death. Those who criticized the leader behind his back would be directly beheaded. Thinking of this, Lord Su's vision turned black and he fell to the ground. No, this little girl refuses to accept this. Su Ying stood up angrily and shouted. The one who was persecuted is clearly my Su family. It's me. Why do you still want to execute us? There's no justice in this world. The sect leader stared at this beautiful and seductive woman. She was indeed very good-looking. She had a pair of beautiful eyes, a high nose bridge, bright red lips, and especially a curvy figure. Her figure was very smooth and feminine. What was even more attractive was the seductive charm that came from her bones. She was truly a man's benefactor. Oh, you refuse to accept this? Logically speaking, such a woman should be very coquettish and very good at pretending to be pitiful. However, she was actually hot like a little chili pepper. He had never seen this type before. Su Ying said angrily, Yes, I'm not convinced. The cult master snorted coldly. Ming Luo is one of the 12 earth fiends of Mingdu. He has been responsible for the safety of Mingdu for thousands of years. What has your Su family done for Mingdu? What can you do for Mingdu? Furthermore, your Su family is merely an official. Now that you want to accuse the earth fiends of insubordination, shouldn't you be killed? As soon as the sect leader said that, everyone nodded. What he said made sense. Su Ying said, just because the Earth Fiends contributed to Mingdu, could it be that they can wantonly persecute Mingdu citizens? Can you humiliate my Su family and ruin my, Su Ying's, innocence? Is Cult Master encouraging the Earth Fiends to attack us? If everyone imitates him, what will Mingdu look like? The hierarch's gaze became increasingly cold. As for offending our superiors, the hierarch wants us not to resist no matter what kind of oppression we are under. Then, why can we still report it to the officials and petition for help? Su Ying's every word was reasonable, and actually made Ming Yuzi speechless. What a good little girl. The hierarch said, what you said makes some sense. This venerable will give you all a chance. Both of you have problems with this matter, but in Mingdu's case, of course, whoever is more important than Mingdu will live. Su Ying said, may I ask how the hierarch will evaluate it? The hierarch said, of course it will be based on cultivation. Whoever wins will live. Su Ying frowned when she heard that. She was only a heaven immortal, and a middle heaven immortal at that. The other party was a great heaven immortal. The difference in strength was like heaven and earth. How could there be any chance of victory? Su Ying would definitely lose. Everyone present understood that the hierarch was still biased towards Ming Luo. That was one of the 12 Earth Fiends, Mingdu's main military force. Hierarch, it's not fair. Su Ying said, General Ming Luo is a great heaven immortal. How can a woman like me win against him? Everyone present also discussed softly. Indeed, it's very unfair to let a great heaven immortal deal with a heaven immortal. Then each of you will send out one person. It will be a competition of power. This is the biggest concession this venerable can make. The hierarch said. He was definitely shielding Ming Luo. Su Ying frowned. She knew that a woman like her was definitely attractive to the hierarch, but her influence was far from Ming Luo's. Zhang Xiu had said a lot. She was doomed. Now she had to send out one person. There was no one on her side who could shake Ming Luo's people. Xing Han, one of the 12 Earth Fiends, placed his hand on Ming Luo's shoulder and said, Brother, let me fight for you. Wow! The crowd was in an uproar again. Lord Xing Han is going to fight. Oh my God! The people at the side broke down. They covered their faces, not daring to look. Xing Han was slightly stronger than Ming Luo. They might as well face Ming Luo directly. Su Ying's charming face turned white from anger. Her eyes were brimming with tears. How could they bully people like this? Why? Can't you invite anyone? The hierarch looked at Su Ying. Father. Su Ying came to Lord Su's side and shook him gently. Su Ying explained everything to him. Lord Su looked at Lord Xing Han, who had his hands behind his back, as if his parents had died. He still wanted to fight like this. What should we do? The father and daughter of the Su family had bitter faces. Facing the powerful Xing Han, they had no way or chance at all. However, they were extremely indignant. They were the ones who were being bullied and persecuted. Xing Han said, Why can't you send anyone? Su Ying said angrily, It's not fair. It's too unfair. Can you do whatever you want just because you're strong? Xing Han laughed coldly. Yes, you're right. You can do whatever you want if you're strong. Su Ying was so angry that her delicate body trembled. Her eyes were filled with aggrieved tears. Why don't you let me try? Suddenly, a voice was heard. It was Zhang Xiu who had appeared in the main hall unknowingly. He walked over slowly. His expression was as indifferent and arrogant as before. Zhang Xiu. Su Ying looked at him in surprise. Lord Su saw that it was a lad who was wooing his daughter. The little bit of hope in his heart was immediately shattered into pieces. His eyes were filled with disgust. Lord Su said, Lad, it's not enough that you've harmed my Su family. Now you're coming to bother us. Zhang Xiu said in surprise, When have I harmed your Su family? Lord Su said angrily, You're just an unlucky person. My Su family is so unlucky to have met you. Zhang Xiu frowned. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Su Ying pulled Jiang Xiu out. Jiang Xiu, you shouldn't be here. Hurry up and leave. She did not want Jiang Xiu to lose his life for her. Jiang Xiu said, how do you know that I'll definitely lose? Cut the crap. Hurry up and leave. My Su family will definitely not bet our lives on a lad like you. What's more, you're just a trash divine practitioner. Hurry up and leave, Lord Su said angrily. Su Ying agreed. Hurry up and leave. But father, who's going to fight? Right now, no one had a chance to fight. Jiang Xiu secretly shook his head. He wanted to save them, but they did not appreciate it. There was actually someone in this world who rejected Jiang Luoxia's help. Lord Su muttered, we can only ask Elder Lin. Elder Lin? The Su family had a guest elder who was at the peak of the upper heavenly immortal realm. He was only one step away from becoming a great heavenly immortal. He was the strongest person they had. Because of the Su family's kindness, he had stayed in the Su family all these years. Now it was time for him to risk his life for the Su family. That's all we can do. Elder Lin was outside and he sent someone to call for him. Elder Lin looked like an old man and his cultivation wasn't low. He was at the peak of the upper heaven immortal realm. With such a cultivation, he would be able to enjoy glory in any dynasty. Elder Lin. Elder Lin said, Lord, I understand. I have received great kindness from the Su family. Today, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will win this battle for you and protect the Su family. Lord Su was overjoyed. Then I'll leave everything to you, Elder Lin. Xing Han said, have you chosen your person? It's decided. It's me. Xing Han looked at Elder Lin with disdain. Jiang Xiu also secretly shook his head. The difference between a great heavenly immortal and a heavenly immortal was not something that could be overcome just by putting your life on the line. In the face of such a huge difference in strength, even if you put your life on the line, it would be futile. Go, go, go. Don't block the way here. Lord Su saw that Jiang Xiu was still standing in the middle of the field and was infuriated. He wondered if this lad had purposely come down so that he could watch the battle from a close distance. Standing here was much clearer than standing on the wall. Chapter 7:11. Su Ying looked at Jiang Xiu. At this moment, she could not care less about Jiang Xiu's feelings. The current situation was not about success, but whether she, Su Ying, could survive. Jiang Xiu, you leave first. Don't be implicated by me. If I manage to escape today, I will look for you. Lord Su said angrily, what's there to look for? It's all because of him. Jiang Xiu did not say a word. He turned and left. He left in such a free and easy manner, so proud and aloof. It was as if he had done all of this casually, without a trace of emotion. It was as if all of this was just a child's game that was not worth mentioning in his eyes. As an adult, he could give up at any time. This kind of attitude made Su Ying very puzzled. Humph. Lord Su snorted. He hated Jiang Xiu from the bottom of his heart and looked down on him. Jiang. Su Ying looked at Jiang Xiu's departure. She could not bear to see him leave. After today, she might not be able to see him again. But Jiang Xiu's departure made her feel very disappointed. The girl was conflicted. She wanted Jiang Xiu to leave decisively, but she also hoped that Jiang Xiu would pester her. How is it? Can we start? Xing Han's voice was slightly impatient. Please enlighten me, Lord Earth Emanations. Seeing that Jiang Xiu had returned, Lin Mingho, the eunuch who had brought Jiang Xiu into the palace, said, Brother Jiang, luckily they did not appreciate your kindness. You must know that Lord Xing Han has never left anyone alive. Jiang Xiu said, Is that so? Lin Mingho said, Don't tell me Brother Jiang still thinks that Elder Lin can win? Jiang Xiu shook his head. There is a huge gap between their realms. Their battle experience and skills are far inferior. The difference in their abilities is too great. It should be instant. Hua! Before Jiang Xiu could finish his sentence, the crowd gasped. They saw a flash of sword light. Elder Lin's throat was bleeding profusely. He did not even have a chance to attack. Xing Han did not waste any time. Instantly, the crowd exploded. Lin, Elder Lin. Lord Su's eyes widened in horror. His Su clan's strongest expert couldn't even block a single sword strike from the other party. He even died at the other party's hands. He lost just like that. Is my Su family finished? Lord Su's head was buzzing. How could he lose the battle that cost the life of the Su family so easily? Elder Lin. Su Ying was also stunned. Looking at the motionless old man lying in a pool of blood, her eyes gradually lost their light. She knew it was over. Not only did she lose herself, but she also lost the chance to save her adoptive father. Useless trash. Xing Han's sword was shrouded in a black aura. His blood sizzled as it was being burned, emitting a foul stench. At this time, the sect leader opened his mouth and said, "The result is already very clear. Father and daughter of the Su family, this sovereign gave you a chance, but unfortunately, you didn't grasp it. Now, what do you have to say? However, it's useless no matter what you say. Men, drag him away and behead him." Suddenly, the black wind in the arena became violent. It was so violent that people couldn't see the situation clearly. The water tribulation in the square cauldron was surging like waves. It seemed like a tsunami was forming above it. The square cauldron was breaking the water tribulation. Has it finally begun? A voice was heard. Child of the netherworld, do you still remember my voice? Do you still remember who I am? An old man's figure slowly walked out of the black wind. Left Guardian. Everyone present knew him, but his voice was a woman's voice. It was very pleasing to the ear. Child of the netherworld's eyes suddenly widened with a hint of fear. It's you. That's right, it's me. I'm back. Child of the netherworld's panic only lasted for a moment. He calmed down very quickly. Why did you come back? You shouldn't have come back. You'll only give up your life for nothing. Left Guardian said, "Of course I had to come back. After 300 years of the netherworld water tribulation, it's only today when the water tribulation begins that you'll have the same weakness as us." Yes, this was something that everyone in the netherworld crossing knew. However, no one dared to take advantage of this because that was the sect master. The high and mighty sect master was above the emperor of the dynasty. No one would rebel, and no one had the strength to rebel. Even when there was a weakness, Child of the Netherworld was still a powerful immortal king. Ming Yuzi said, "Even if I lose the water tribulation, even if I have a weakness, can you do anything to me?" Left Guardian said, "Is that so? Don't you feel any discomfort after losing the water tribulation?" Ming Yuzi suddenly reached out to grab his mask and fiercely tore it off. It was a face that looked very young, and even a little beautiful. However, what surprised everyone present was that it was actually a woman's face, and a very beautiful one at that. The sect master was a woman? The 12 earthly fiends, as well as the officials, guards, and spectators present, were all dumbfounded. If the sect master was a woman, why did he build the Vermilion Bird Tower and keep so many beautiful women in captivity? Was the sect master for others to enjoy, or did he like this? However, Ming Yuzi's face twisted in pain. Wisps of black qi escaped from his face. What did you do to me?" The left protector said, "You are indeed very careful, and you are also an immortal king, no poison can hurt you, and you also have the water tribulation, so you are not afraid of water at all. But one day you are afraid of water, and it is today, the day you lost the water tribulation, I got people to put medicine in your food. This medicine is not poisonous at all, and the effect is to condense the qi into water. Normally, it would be fine, but today you don't have the water tribulation, so it is like a fatal poison to you." Ming Yuzi's expression changed drastically. He turned around and wanted to absorb the water tribulation to resolve the talisman water disaster on his body. However, he remembered that the water tribulation had entered the stage of tribulation. If he absorbed the water tribulation back into his body now, it meant that he would have to go through the tribulation with the water tribulation. At that time, they would be doomed together. The water tribulation had accumulated countless tribulations. If not for the square cauldron, which had long disappeared from the world, Ming Yuzi would not have been able to withstand it. If he absorbed the water tribulation back into his body now, it would be no different from suicide. Ji Wuhua was very precise. He had calculated the time and only made his move when the water tribulation began. "You are so vicious." Ming Yuzi's expression became more and more ugly. The water talisman kept corroding his body. He trembled in pain and leaned against the square cauldron. The square cauldron could withstand the heavy water and was extremely heavy. He could not break it at all. Sect Master. His subordinates were all in a mess, and the 12 earth emanations were all extremely anxious. The guards rushed in from outside and surrounded the left protector. "Even if I die, can you leave Mingdu alive? Give me the talisman water." Ming Yuzi cried out. Left Guardian said, "Maybe I really can't leave, but unfortunately, you won't be able to see it either. Right now, you are like a piece of paper. After absorbing water, you will change. It's fine if paper changes, but people will die if they change." Zhang Xiu watched all of this from afar. Ji Wuxin's plan should have succeeded. After spending so many years feeding Ming Yuzi his talisman water bit by bit, it finally all exploded at this moment. It seemed that he really did not need to do anything. "Where is the real left guardian?" Ji Wuhua said, "I'm really surprised. You also have scruples about others? Where is he?" Ji Wuhua said, "He's gone. He left the Netherworld Crossing and will never come back." "Tell me, where is he?" Ji Wuhua said, "You won't know. You will never know." As she spoke, her face suddenly changed. The faces of everyone present also changed greatly. Ming Yuzi suddenly stood up as if nothing had happened. You, Ming Yuzi said, "you underestimate me too much. I found out 60 years ago that the left guardian was no longer the left guardian. It's just that you hid it too well. I always wanted to find him, but I couldn't find him. Since you didn't say anything at the last moment, then this venerable has no need to act with you. Today, since your foxtail has been exposed, then this venerable will take you down first and then slowly torture you." Ji Wuhua stared in disbelief. She had worked hard for more than 60 years. How could it be seen through? Zhang Xiu secretly shook his head. Ji Wuhua's transformation technique was indeed very powerful, but since it was a disguise, there must be a flaw. "Take her down for this venerable." Chapter 712. Ming Yuzi was an overlord who ruled a region. People like him were all extremely intelligent. How could he be so easy to trick? It was good enough that she wasn't tricked by him, but he still wanted to trick her. Ji Wuhua was patient, but she was too arrogant and believed in her own ability too much. When a person was in such a state, it was inevitable that there would be a flaw. The guards outside rushed in. Their heavy armor and terrifying spears were all aimed at Ji Wuhua. "Ha ha ha." Ji Wuhua laughed and glanced coldly at the guards who gathered around. "Don't forget that I'm also an immortal king. Do you think you can take me down with these useless soldiers?" Ming Yuzi said, "Take her down." The silhouettes of the 12 earth fiends beside him suddenly materialized and rushed toward Ji Wuhua like ghosts and demons. Humph! Ji Wuhua's figure moved, and smoke appeared around her. She took a step and turned into Lu Dazhuang. She punched out with both hands, and 2 fist prints rushed out like a swooping calf. The world suddenly became silent. The 2 forces collided, and the smoke dispersed. Ji Wuhua's power didn't gain the upper hand at all. She could only destroy the 12 forces. Zhang Xiu made a puzzled sound. The power of an immortal king should be able to crush the power of a great celestial immortal. No matter how many great celestial immortals there were, the gap in quality couldn't be made up with quantity. Even if it could be made up, it couldn't be done with just 12 people. It seems that these people's spells come from the same source. It was not difficult for Jiang Xiu to see this with his eyesight. The relationship between Ji Wuhua and Ming Du was far deeper than he had imagined. What's wrong? Ji Wuhua was also very surprised. The 12 wisps of smoke immediately surrounded her tightly. Golden light constantly flashed on her hands, continuously resisting the earth terminus qi that was rushing towards her. At the same time, the two of them turned into smoke and drifted far away. One moment they were on the roof, the next moment they were on the ground, and the next moment they were in the attic. The smoke and clouds danced as if they were looking at a landscape painting. How can this be? The more Ji Wuhua fought, the more frightened he became. Ha ha ha. Ming Yuzi's laughter rang out. He was very proud, very proud. How could a person who is obsessed with medical skills and leaves everything to others know about the 12 earthly fiends? If you had taken a second look back then, things wouldn't have turned out this way. My honorable lady, miss. The crowd burst into an uproar once again. Sect leader actually called the person who harmed him Mississippi. What is going on? Jiang Xiu was also astonished. Ji Wuhua is from Mingdu, and she's even the young miss of the cult master of Mingdu? Sect master Mingdu is her maid? Humph. What a disappointment. Lu Dazhuang's figure transformed once again, and a beautiful and alluring figure appeared in the midst of the pervading black qi. At the same time, the surrounding rainwater formed a ball and shot towards her. With a ding, the sound of water droplets gushed out from behind him like a tsunami. Every wave that was sent out gave off a loud sound of a tsunami, rushing up into the sky, chasing after the earthly terminus qi. Since you're so happy today, I'll let you see the real 12 earthly fiends. Ming Yuzi roared. Appear. The 12 earthly fiend qi, which were chased by the seawater, suddenly dissipated. Then, a human figure appeared in the sky and kept becoming more and more solid. How can this be? Seeing the person who appeared, everyone present cried out in alarm. Lord Su, Su Ying, and the others were also very surprised. Their eyes almost fell out of their sockets. Jiang Xiu was also extremely shocked. The 12 earthly fiends had gathered into one person. Right Guardian. The person who came out was dressed in red armor and holding a long spear, exuding a terrifying evil aura. The 12 earthly fiends are actually one person, and it's the Right Guardian. At this moment, Su Ying really hoped that the person who wanted to assassinate the sect master would succeed. If he succeeded, it would be equivalent to saving her. However, she had been in Mingdu for 60 years and had only heard of the Right Guardian, but had never seen him. She did not expect that the 12 earthly fiends were the Right Guardian. Now, she finally understood why the sect master was so partial to Ming Luo. It was because the 12 earthly fiends were indispensable. If one of them was missing, all the earthly fiends would die, and the Right Guardian would die. Interesting. It was also the first time that Jiang Xiu had encountered such a thing. However, it was not that he had never heard of it, but it was his first time experiencing it personally. Long time no see, the Right Guardian said. You. Ji Wuhua was extremely surprised. Looking at the person in front of her, she was speechless for a long time. Esteemed young miss, are you very surprised? It's laughable that you disdain everything except medical skills. You don't even know what kind of ability your own servant possesses. It's simply laughable to the extreme. Ming Yuzi ridiculed. Humph. Ji Wuhua snorted coldly. Die here. The Right Guardian shook the long spear in his hand and raised it high in the air. Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. The surroundings, which were already full of gloomy wind, crackled non-stop, making people afraid. There were even electric arcs flashing on the surging waves, and the long spear had already slashed down from the sky. Swoosh! Under the strong pressure, the airflow wherever the long spear went was cut off inch by inch. Before it touched the waves had already been forcibly split apart, spreading to both sides like a fountain. Time and space reflection. The long spear is like a ghost. The long spear in his hand was like a dreamy shadow, cutting through the thorns and rushing toward Ji Wuhua with the wind and waves. The latter was shocked and lost her voice. When she flipped her hand and patted the talisman on her body, the golden light in the talisman immediately burst out. This was an unimaginably powerful spiritual force that swept out like a gust of wind. Ding! There was a sound of metal colliding. Zhang Xiu narrowed his eyes. Ji Wuhua should not be a person who loved cultivation. From their words, he could tell that she was actually obsessed with medical skills and did not care about anything else. She did not even know that the so-called 12 earthly demons were transformed by one person. One could imagine how much she had invested in cultivation. In the eyes of the other two immortal doctors, it was not too much. If they were not forced to, they would never invest time in cultivation. They were obsessed with medical skills, just like Zhang Xiu was obsessed with cultivation. Ji Wuhua's current cultivation was probably related to the hatred she bore. In order to take revenge, she forced herself to cultivate and reached the immortal king realm. However, her combat strength was not very strong. From the way she fought, it could be seen that she knew too few spells. She did not study this field at all. Therefore, puff! Ji Wuhua was sent flying and heavily fell to the ground. There was a hole in her left shoulder, and blood was gushing out. Her defense had been broken. Ha ha ha! Sect Master Mingdu raised his head and laughed. It's really hard on you. Unfortunately, you failed in the end. Just like back then, this place no longer belongs to you. It no longer belongs to your Ji family. Ji Wuhua looked at him resentfully and gnashed her teeth. Don't think that you can do whatever you want. Even if I can't deal with you today, the heavens will sooner or later. Sect Master Mingdu smiled and shook his head. You are still as naive as before. However, I really find it strange. More than 1,000 years have passed, and you have advanced to the immortal king realm for almost 1,000 years. If you wanted revenge, you would have come long ago. Why wait until today? Why? Ji Wuhua did not answer. You don't want to say? Sect Master Mingdu said. I'm not interested in knowing. Where is the left protector? Ji Wuhua said, he left. He left the day I came back because he knew that he had served a traitor for so many years. Sect Master Mingdu said, Traitor, you are the one who really betrayed Mingdu. You are obsessed with medical skills all day long and ignore proper business. A sect master like you should have stepped down long ago. Look at Mingdu now. Bah! Spittle was spat on Sect Master Mingdu's face. His originally amiable expression suddenly turned cold. He said angrily, Take this assassin and the Su family's father and daughter away and behead them all. Wait. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Zhang Xiu slowly walked out of the crowd and said, I want to fight for the Su family again. Chapter 713. It's this guy again. There's no end to it. However, this guy is really bold. He wants to stand up for the Su family time and time again. Isn't he afraid that the sect master will blame him and lose his life? But he's quite infatuated with the little girl of the Su family. You. The sect master didn't care about Zhang Xiu at all. Yes, me. Zhang Xiu's eyes were fixed on this female sect master. She was, of course, extraordinary to be able to rise from a maid of Ji Wuhua to a ruler of a generation. However, Zhang Xiu would not take the Nether Crossing cult, which was considered at the bottom of the medium-sized sects, seriously. Ming Yuzi could not compare with her arrogance and disdain for the world. Zhang Xiu, go. Don't worry about me. Don't lose your life. Su Ying said anxiously. Zhang Xiu sighed softly. You've done enough. Don't insist. Hearing Zhang Xiu's words, Su Ying felt a little strange. Zhang Xiu continued, Although you are Su Ying, you have nothing to do with this old man. You are not his daughter. Lord Su was stunned and then said, Nonsense. Su Ying stared in horror. Zhang Xiu said, The injured person next to you is the immortal Dr. Ji Wuhua, whom you have been looking for 60 years. What? Su Ying had never mentioned to Zhang Xiu who she was and why she came to Nether Crossing. How could she not be shocked when Zhang Xiu knew clearly about it? You are the immortal Dr. Ji Wuhua? Before Ji Wuhua could speak, Sect Master Ming Du said, "She is, but so what? It turns out that you are also a schemer with evil intentions. Today, this Sect Master will eradicate all of you." Zhang Xiu said, "Can we start now?" Sect Master Ming Du said contemptuously, "When did this Sect Master promise you anything? What qualifications do you have to make this Sect Master give you another chance?" Zhang Xiu smiled faintly. "Then you plan to send people to encircle us? Ha ha ha. Arrogant." Black smoke rose from the right guardian's body and he turned back into the 12 earthly fiends and landed on the ground. Xing Han said, "Sect Master, just kill this kid." Zhang Xiu said, "Let's do it then." His aura suddenly changed, and a terrifying white light burst out from his eyes. His long hair suddenly fluttered, like a flame circling above his head. The power in his body surged wildly, and his clothes fluttered. His aura rushed out. The power of the explosion actually suppressed the dark, gloomy wind, returning the world to a clear and bright state. As the energy spread out, rumbling sounds could be heard. The palace was hit by an unprecedented shockwave, and the palaces slowly floated into the air. Strong, too strong. Oh my God! Everyone was dumbfounded. Just his aura alone was already so powerful. All of them were extremely shocked and unable to calm down. Ji Wuhua's eyes widened. She never expected Zhang Xiu to be so powerful. His cultivation level was probably that of a divine king. Lord Su was completely dumbfounded. You. He could not even speak. He actually disrespected such a powerful person again and again. Instantly, his heart was filled with grief. Even if the Sect Master spared him, he probably would not be able to continue living. Zhang Xiu. No one was more shocked than Su Ying. "You're a divine king." "No, that's impossible." "How can you be a divine king and know about me? Who exactly are you?" The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. "How about it? Can we start now?" Xing Han's expression changed drastically. He no longer had the arrogance from before and could not help but retreat. Zhang Xiu raised his right hand and a long saber flew out of his hand. It turned into a huge silver saber that was 20 to 30 feet long and slashed towards Xing Han. "Destroy!" Before the saber was drawn, the entire world was filled with saber energy. The air was twisted and distorted. At this moment, there was only this saber in the world. Xing Han's body flashed with black light and he was sent flying hundreds of feet away. No matter how fast he flew, he could feel a saber intent pressing down on him. It was like a maggot in one's bones and he could not break free. Ah! With a wild roar, a black light flashed between his brows and a hell demon mark suddenly appeared. Countless runes appeared on his body and his joints cracked. The other 11 earth demons turned into streaks of black smoke and surged towards him. The next moment, they condensed into the right guardian who was wearing armor and slashed down with a long spear in his hand. However, the saber radiance was unusually powerful and domineering. It was the first time he had seen something like this in his life. Furthermore, it contained a strong wind and fire power. He was Ming Sha and could only be restrained by water. He could not restrain anything else. However, when faced with wind and fire power, he was still suppressed. The strength of this power was really shocking. The long spear was knocked away and he could not move because of the saber aura. His eyes were filled with fear. It was only now that he truly felt how terrifying Zhang Xiu was. No! He screamed in horror. After his body turned blurry, he tried to turn into black smoke again. However, under the saber aura, the black smoke was blown away by the wind and dissipated into nothingness. When he condensed his body again in a flash, he gripped the long saber in his body tightly with both hands. He retreated more than 10 steps and everywhere he passed, the ground was dripping with blood. In the end, the red armor on his body fell off piece by piece and he fell to the ground. A gust of wind blew and his body turned into charcoal and disappeared into nothingness. Dead, dead. He was killed in one strike. The crowd was in an uproar. This saber had killed the right guardian, who was also one of the 12 earth demons. Strong, so strong. Everyone who saw this scene was dumbfounded. The person they respected like the god of death was actually one of the 12 earth demons. He was killed by Zhang Xiu in one strike. This... Su Ying's beautiful eyes flashed. This was too exciting. Right guardian. Ming Yuzi said angrily in a cold voice. Why did you kill him? Zhang Xiu looked at him indifferently. Didn't he just say that if you're strong, you can do whatever you want? Those who humiliated others would be humiliated by others. He had also helped Su Ying vent her anger. Su Ying asked, "Who are you?" Zhang Xiu said leisurely, immortal tribulation, wind, fog, dust, rain, wind, fog, dust, rain. Su Ying was no stranger to the Azure Spirit Leaderboard. You're talking about fog? Very few people did not know about the Azure Spirit Leaderboard. This was the greatest charm of the Azure Spirit Leaderboard. Su Ying's expression changed drastically. Who are you? How do you know who my father is? Zhang Xiu said, I'm Fog's friend. Su Ying said, my father's friend. She stared at Zhang Xiu. My father has been crazy for more than 60 years. You should be his friend before he went crazy. You should be a good friend if you can help him seek medical treatment. But I've never heard that he had a friend surnamed Jiang. Zhang Xiu said, of course Fog has a friend surnamed Jiang. Su Ying muttered, yes, he does. His only friend is the all-powerful monster Zhang Luoxia. Zhang Luo. She looked up at Zhang Xiu, and her eyes suddenly widened. No, that's impossible. Sect Master Jiang disappeared 60 years ago. Zhang Xiu smiled faintly. You're Zhang Luoxia? Su Ying felt like her brain was about to explode. What kind of joke was this? That was someone from the same generation as her father. The person who only existed in legends, who was constantly cursed by her father as an old monster and an old pervert, was actually Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu said, it's the real deal. Tianqing School's sect master. Boom. It exploded, it really exploded. The entire palace let out cries of alarm, and a huge wave of energy was set off. It felt like even the sky was about to explode. Zhang Luoxia? He's Zhang Luoxia. This was a name that reverberated like thunder in the ears. Whenever it was mentioned, it would make one's blood boil. Every battle he fought was familiar to the ears. It was as if he was living in the real world, but also as if he was above the 9 heavens. Tianqing School's sect master, Zhang Luoxia. Ah! Ming Yuzi looked at Zhang Xiu with extreme fear, and the chill in his heart continued to rise. He was actually Zhang Luoxia. In the current immortal martial continent, there was only one person who had never been defeated, and that person was Zhang Luoxia. In front of Zhang Luoxia and that shocking blade, Ming Yuzi said helplessly, okay, I admit defeat. You can take him away. Zhang Luoxia was already terrifying enough, and behind him was the entire Tianqing School. After weighing the pros and cons, he decided to let go. No, Ji Wuhua said. Zhang Luoxia, if you want me to treat your friend, then kill him. Ming Yuzi's expression changed greatly, and he shouted, you're crazy. Everyone's expression changed greatly. They shouted, absolutely not. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.